Hello, hello. Warm welcome, everyone, from the sunny Klagenfurt in Austria. My name is Miroslav Polzer, and I'm with the International Association for the Advancement of Innovative Approaches to Global Challenges. And it's a great
Austria. My name is Miroslav.
it's a great pleasure to welcome you to today's side event to the UN Science, Technology and Innovation Forum. The title of the side event is Empowering Climate Action of Citizens, Youth and Communities with Science, Technology and Innovation. And the partners of today's event are the Austrian Federal for Climate Action, the UN Habitat Youth Program, the UNESCO Management of Social Transformations Program, the Climate Education, Communication and Outreach Stakeholder Community ICOS, and the Climate Change Coalition, and also ICLEI, the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives, GloCha Foundation New York with the Generation Next Voice of Youth Network, and the company GloCha Tech. It's a public benefit the company that set up for the implementation of GloCha initiatives recently. And let me show you now briefly the concept of the event. So we are targeting with our event today UN system representatives and member states, and presenting them the Action for Climate Empowerment support structure solutions that have been developed with the Austrian Ministry for Climate Action, with the Climate Change Secretary and others, and also the Action Network GloCha as a key partner for the future of the UN system. Also somehow addressing resource holders, funders, investors, donors, so that they see the value of our solutions and our community. So in the future, when there will be resource mobilization initiatives, that there is a reference point here with today's event, seeing how it fits into the broader system of United Nations connecting with science, technology, and innovation solution providers. And also it's communication channel for us, a partner to learn about our work and to learn about engagement opportunities. Our key messages are: we are in challenging times, in disruptive times, sometimes frightening times, but at the same time, these are times are also opportunities for new things to emerge. And we see that the UN system is not really very effective in terms of addressing the climate challenge. Emissions are going up, and we feel the consequences of climate change more and more. But there is in the UNFCCC process now an Action for Climate Empowerment program design, and which with a decision that was expected at COP26, the climate change conference in November this year in Glasgow. And here is a global climate action governance space opening up, and this is an opportunity that we are entering and somehow co-shaping with this ACE-AT project that Dali Wögerbauer and I will tell you more about later. The aim is empowering everyone everywhere to contribute to the common good on local and global level. And the message is science, technology, and innovation plus social innovation are key ingredients for success. And one message is also that the journey towards a better world starts in Klagenfurt am Wörthersee. And with this message, I'm delighted to invite now also Doug Reagan from the UN Habitat Youth Program, a key partner of today's event, to say some welcome remarks, so that we will see also your perspectives on the topic and the aims of the event.
Thanks so much, Miroslav. Really honored to be here. We work closely with Miro and GloCha and this coalition since COP25, where we're really trying to advance both technology, but as well as youth and community engagement in technology. I mean, it's I think one of the things that we clearly note is that on one hand, it's great to see technological advance, and this is an important way that humanity moves forward, but we need to really focus on sustainable development goals, and the one key part of that sustainable development goals is leaving no one behind. We have to make sure that everyone is engaged. We have to make sure that we move forward thinking of the poorest of the poor, as well as all the other people involved globally. And I think definitely, as Miro has said, these times can be scary. These times, there's so many things happening. I don't think we haven't had for, well, over half a century, a situation where the globe is so much engaged in together as one issue, this being the pandemic. And I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we need to build back better, and technology is critical to that. Technology is an important part about an important way forward. It's an important ignition factor that can help us do this. So again, really excited to be here. Hoping that we have some really great conversations, and back to you, Miro. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Doug. And here in the back of my room here, you see the roll-up that we have used for a conference back in 2014 in Klagenfurt, the International Conference on Sustainable Development, Innovation and Youth, building the knowledge base and ICT infrastructure for youth-led civic engagement in Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development Goals implementation. So we see, and Doug has been at that conference already, and it is a companion on this journey towards building a better world. And we are delighted to have also with, first I want to show you also wait a minute. I want to show you also the structure of today's event. So let me share my screen again. Okay, it is here, but it's not visible. Now it will be visible again. So we have the structure of the event, thematic introductions on science, technology, and innovation for youth climate action empowerment, then the presentation of the ACT project and its the climate action empowerment support structure plans and resource mobilization, the deliverables of this project, then some youth climate action empowerment conceptual frameworks, technical solutions, and network and outreach partners presentations. Then we have a section on communities, climate action empowerment, and the role of social and technological innovation. And then the concluding session also on mass mobilization for climate action with the power of music. And for this first section now on the science, technology, and innovation for youth climate action empowerment, we have three distinguished experts, and we will start with Minna Aslama Horowitz, who is our vice president and also an academic leader in this field, youth empowerer and design thinker, everything. And so, Minna, please be so kind and share your thoughts on how science, technology, and innovation can help with climate action empowerment.
Thank you, Miro, and thank you for this event to all the organizers and all the participants on the screen today and in the audience today. It's really an honor to be included, of course, and I'd like to start by saying that we form a community here right now, and we have an important mission to explore the possibilities of STI, especially in terms of action for climate empowerment. And we need a community to do so. It's a wicked problem. It's a huge challenge in so many different dimensions, as Doug was telling us also, when we don't want to leave anybody behind. So we need both a shared mission as well as inclusivity when we discuss these issues, and varied voices, different approaches. And I think the impressive lineup of today's event exemplifies that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm an educator. I teach communication at the university level in the US, in Europe, with students from all around Europe, as well as in the Middle East, Southeast Asia. And I've been involved in an educational living lab in Kenya as well. So my field is communication in a broad sense. I teach courses in policy and governance, decision making, as well as digital communities, activism, and social change. So I have both empirical and anecdotal insight into how young people experience the situation today, what they know about climate change, what they know about broadly about the wicked problems and SDGs. And we know that many surveys indicate that youth all around the world are highly aware of the global challenges, also perhaps scared, sometimes disillusioned. It also seems that young people are very aware of and familiar with SDGs, which is great. I see them included in curricula in several universities where I teach. I see them addressed in conferences for education, for research, and thank you for the university community for that. And while recent surveys indicate that the pandemic has been grueling to young people in many ways, we know they had to put their lives on hold in terms of their education, work, social life, in so many ways. My own research and also my experiences with my students all around the world over the past year has surprised me. Young people are extremely aware. They do very measured assessments of their situation and the global situation. They are so resilient. It is amazing. It really, truly has given me hope. But there still is the sense with young people, and also research surveys, polls, opinion polls indicate this. Young people feel they are let down by decision-maker institutions and bodies. They really feel that they are not part in those processes, whether it's about climate change, whether it's about SDGs at large, whether it's about the pandemic. So if you look at examples like Fridays for Future and other type of activism, Me Too, BLM, it has shown us that young people are globally aware, and they are extremely good communicators, mobilizers, and organizers in the digital sphere. They are great awareness raisers. So let's celebrate that. Let's encourage that. Let's support that. However, as the famous sociologist Zygmunt Bauman has said about our times, and I am paraphrasing here, never in human history have we known so much about the problems of the world, but have had not given the tools or opportunities to act accordingly. So we know so much, but we feel sometimes helpless, maybe even frozen with all this knowledge and awareness. So fostering not only awareness raising, but the capacity of young people to research, to understand the challenges better, to innovate for concrete solutions, and also in terms of decision making, in terms of governance. Those are the other components of that empowerment. So thank you for being here to further foster the community for holistic solutions in SDG implementation and for the better future for all.
Thank you very much, Minna, for these beautiful thoughts and somehow taking the pulse of global youth on these global challenges. And with this segue into the topic, I'm happy to give the floor to John Crawley, the leader of the Management of Social Transformation program at UNESCO, and a friend and colleague since very many years. We've had joint initiatives and events on the topic of ethics and foresight in terms of extreme climate scenarios. We've had cooperation on the COP21 global challenges, youth music contest, and many more activities. And now we are also partners in a research project proposal, Knowledge for ACE. And this project is also some kind of the basis for today's introductory presentation. So John, please take the floor, and thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Miro. It's a great pleasure to be addressing you. And thank you very much, Mina, for your introductory comments, which overlap to a considerable extent with what I'd like to say. And what I'd like to start with is actually the very idea of a keynote lecture, which is interesting and challenging in this context. A keynote is a musical metaphor, of course, and it's actually a double metaphor. It's a metaphor for a certain kind of music, tonal music, that actually has a key, B flat, C sharp, or whatever, and also for a certain mode of musical production, which is about orchestras and conductors. And it's interesting that in a purely musicological sense, this is actually a very old idea of music. In a world shaped inter alia by Schoenberg, since we're talking here in conjunction with an Austrian partner, you, Miro, and by Stockhausen and Boulez, the idea of a key is less obvious than it might appear. And in a world of decentralized action, where we're talking about empowering people to do things with respect to a challenge that perhaps does not have a global uniform solution, but can definitely have a multiplicity and a multidimensionality of solution spaces, maybe the conductor orchestra model isn't the right one either. Indeed, you could argue, as was said earlier, including by Miro, that one of the problems with the UN system in the past 25 years, since the very first COP of the UNFCCC in 1995 in Geneva, has been precisely the desperate search for a key, a conductor, and an orchestra for a piece of music that perhaps could not be produced or even written on those terms. And what we're looking for effectively through both social innovation and technological innovation is a way of not being necessarily trapped within tonality and not necessarily being trapped within a top-down model of delivery where some centralized process defines goals, objectives, targets, indicators, and so on, and then decentralized actors try to tick various boxes in terms of what they're contributing to the achievement of that overall perspective of action. In other words, the challenge of empowerment combined with the challenge of climate action is mediated by knowledge in the following very important way, I think, which can be summarized by just two questions. How would you know if you're doing something that makes sense? And how would you know if you've achieved results that matter? And those two how would you know questions actually go to the heart of the kinds of challenges we need to address now. It was perhaps taken for granted at one point, and it was perhaps the logic of Kyoto that everyone knew what they needed to do. And that you would know whether it's been achieved because there were standardized international metrics. The dream that setting a carbon price would solve everything was ultimately the tonal conductor orchestra model of climate action. But of course, this creates a number of difficulties. First, it's not clear that we have the technical capacity to create such a framework anyway. And even if we did, it would be actually a disempowering, not an empowering framework, because it would be one that would always already in advance have resolved the issues that in fact need to be resolved, not so much through achieving specific technical targets, but by inventing, as the philosophers would say, new forms of life and new life worlds. And the idea that responding to the climate challenge is, among other things, creating new life worlds, plural, is now very well accepted in philosophy and the social sciences, and I think is naturally emerging too from a number of technical changes and developments. And in that respect, two, I think, are particularly interesting. And here it's relevant that I myself am, as I speak to you, in professional transition from a position in the UN system that I've occupied for nearly 20 years now, since 2003, running UNESCO's programs about social transformations, about the ethics of science and technology, about global environmental change at various times and in various combinations, and intimately involved in that capacity with the UN's processes for promoting scientific cooperation, something that's very important for UNESCO, and supporting international diplomacy through the contributions of the sciences, in my case, primarily the social and human sciences, to a new professional life, which for me will start in July, where I'll be looking in much more practical terms at renewable energy as a contribution to environmental transition, and the way in which renewable energy and digital technologies connect to support the environmental transition. And this corresponds, again, to this double shift from a vision of centralized action to more decentralized action, corresponding to a transition from a view of energy systems as necessarily top-down and centralized to a view of energy systems as potentially much more decentralized, consumer-driven, diverse, experimental, and contextual. And all of this, the diverse, the experimental, the contextual, doesn't fit so well within the keynote orchestra conductor model, but it fits much better with an idea of the production of systems through multiple individualized attempts to do things that are felt to be valuable, tracking the results of what's done to see if in fact it adds up to be valuable. Because otherwise uncoordinated initiatives can conflict or undermine one another, or actually produce outcomes that are detrimental to what everyone was trying to achieve. Collective action problems don't go away simply because one drops the dream of centralized, coordinated collective action mediated by some center. And in this respect, the second transformation, alongside the transformation in energy systems driven by technology, is the transformation of information systems, equally driven by technology. How would you know if what you're doing is worth it? How would you know if you've achieved something that was worth achieving? Well, maybe through completely new types of knowledge-driven innovation systems that allow you to try things alone or with others, not necessarily geographically close others, and see what comes out, and have well-defined knowledge metrics that allow you to track over time the consequences of what's being done, so as to adjust against real-world results the initiatives you take. That is, I think, the dream that Miro and I are working on in particular. He mentioned it earlier, the dream of creating that interface between new technologies and new modes of knowledge production and knowledge sharing that would allow people to be empowered precisely by their ability to try things, be recognized for trying them, and have the ability to track the extent to which trying them made a positive difference. I know that in the rest of this meeting, there will be quite a lot of discussion of various aspects of this dream, both the technological and the social aspects. But in the limited time that was given to me for this keynote, or this atonal introduction, if you want to drop the musical metaphor, I think that really puts the key points as concisely as I can for these purposes. Empowering people, including right down to the level of individuals, including young people, of course, means giving them the ability, the very practical ability, to answer those two questions. How would I know whether what I'm doing is worth doing? And how would I know whether what I did made a difference? That is how we need to be working, using the potential of technology to create what is effectively, to take the metaphor again, a metaphor from German phenomenology, a new Lebenswelt, a new life world, compatible, consistent, and indeed permeated by the concern for climate change, but also the concern for the range of other environmental issues that we need to deal with, including freshwater scarcity, pressures on biodiversity, ocean plastics pollution, and everything else that hangs together around the philosophical concept, which is also a thoroughly political concept, of the Anthropocene. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for these great thoughts and for providing a broader perspective on our today's event. And I'm adding here now also the overview of the Knowledge for ACE research project that we have put together on basic research and applied research. And that there is the plan also to have a regional multi-stakeholder climate action empowerment innovation system cluster here in Austria and with partners here in the Alps Adriatic region and also later globally. And that we, for this, building the knowledge base for multi-stakeholder climate action empowerment, that we really think science, technology, and innovation is essential, but also the openness for other dimensions of knowledge, which is also, for instance, music. And before we hand over to Alex Caldas from UN Environment, I would like to show you a video from workshop that we've had in September 2011 with 30 young leaders from all around the world to prepare our first Global Youth Music Contest competition. And these youth voices show also how young people see the avenue towards really everyone taking action and being empowered. So just as an inspiration, and also that we also show that we have youth voices on this side event, although most of them are then in the central part of the event. You will hear them later. But let's see the video now.
It all started one sunny afternoon. 40 people, 30 countries, a multitude of perspectives, and one big challenge.
Systemic thinking.
First I was afraid, I was petrified. Then I thought that sustainable development will be by my side. We spent so many nights thinking how to make things right, and we grew strong, learning about the Rio +20 Global Youth Song.
It's important that we use other methods, other mediums to communicate, to ascend differences of culture, race, creed, and we need to be working towards that one goal of sharing solutions.
Systemic thinking.
Communicating beyond language, beyond words that restrict people.
Listen to the song in your heart. Sing Rio +20 Global Youth Music Contest.
Creating an ocean of voices to create a wave of change.
It's a first step for us to engage youth to get in a process of tackling the global challenges that we face.
At first it may be hard, and the way may seem long. But let your fears go, and you'll find you're not alone.
On a more global level, young people can connect by checking out our website and watching all these videos from all around the world and realizing that they have a lot of things in common.
Hello? What about you?
The initiative I believe in.
It's passion and harmony, youth-led and totally creative.
It's a great opportunity for youth to be the key actors in sustainable development.
Global citizens, start your creative movement and become the beacons of light in the darkness. Reclaim your future. Now is your time to shine.
In a lot of ways, we're talking too much, so really, maybe we should just let the music talk.
For sure, just sing it away and just let it.
Just let the music talk.
Like maybe even we have a rhythm, you know?
Yeah,
we can
let
start talking
the
about
music talk. Let the music talk. Let the music talk. Let the music talk.
Let the music talk!
Woo! Did we just create a wave of change?
I think so!
Cool, let's go!
Reclaim your future. Now is your time to shine.
I hope you liked this because I thought we have to show it because there are so many ways through which we can engage youth, we can empower them, and they want to be active, and this gives them sense and meaning, and a great initiative in engaging youth also is the World Environment Situation Room, an initiative of UN Environment, on which also Doug Reagan is involved in on the youth engagement program. And I'm happy to give the floor to Alex Caldas, one of the leaders of the science department of UN Environment and Big Data unit leader. Please, Alex, show us how you are empowering youth to get engaged in protecting the world's environment.
Thank you so much. Well, Miro, let me start by thanking for the invitation, for sharing with you some thoughts. And also thank Mina and John for the extraordinary keynotes that really enlightened the perspective that should be in our work. I will have very short presentation, and then I'll ask Doug to intervene. In today's times, I think there are three words that revealing the way nowadays the world is functioning. And if we could synthesize in three words, one is complexity, the second one unpredictability, and the third one instability. And the humanitarian crisis we're suffering these days is a good evidence of this problem of a complex world, unstable and unpredictable. And when this happens, we came, which is very similar to the current emergency situation in the climate, we came to the concept of a situation room that works and functions as such and brings together communities, the youth, brings together different scales, empowerment to act, but on the base of situation room. Because what we really need is this situation room where we can tackle the immense deluge of data in order that we can use it for good, data for good, data for action, and data for our future. I'll try to give you a glimpse of three different aspects: the good, the action, and the future that we have built in. As you can see, I think you can confirm, you can see my screen now. The first thing is to actually treat these as a situation room where we can bring together all these big volume of data, this real-time velocity of transformation of data, as well as the different varieties of types of data. That was our first key deliverable to make it worth to work with it. But let me now demonstrate the data for good aspect of it. This is a real-time system already running in what we call the World Environment Situation Room, where we're tackling the problem of the air pollution, the real-time exposure to air pollution. And this is a real-time system that is not possible to work without the actual crowdsourcing platform where people all around the world are crowdsourcing their data. As you can see, this is really PM 2.5 indicator of the quality of air. And all over the world, we can have crowdsourced data coming from different localities. And we have dashboards of information to actually measure on real time the exposure and the quality of exposure of air. There are two dimensions here. One is to bring this data for good, because we know how much climate and health, climate imposes on health. But the second aspect is the crowdsourcing. the community based of the way the data is collected and then is put together into a single system. And this goes into what John was referring to, starting from the orchestra, but the system thinking perspective we got from the video. It's impossible to tackle the complexity of this world we live in without having these community-based crowdsourcing systems working for us. The second aspect is about the aspect data for action. In reality, I'm showing you now another system already built into the World Environment Situation Room, which tackles fires on near real time, but which goes even to the level of the province level, where we can tackle on near real time data around the world. I'm coming here to Australia, because as you well know, Australia suffers enormously from fires, and we can have actual dashboards of the data to monitor at the province level, as you can see, data coming on near real time with MODIS systems and NASA, and that allows us to monitor over the course of the full year the different strands and over different years, as you can see, a full decade here of information. Today, there's never been a time of so much power in terms of technology ability to go to these different scales, from the province levels to the national level, the regional level of the continent, the global levels. In fact, we have to learn to work together to put together this enormous technology power to bring data for action, for real action. I'm showing you fires, but you could see that the same kind of emergency could be work. This is a real-time system, a near real-time system that can be worked for emergencies on volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, droughts, etc. So again, comes two perspectives, two aspects here: the technology power, but the community-based systems that are needed to empower the real thing to work. Finally, final point here is about data for future. And this is the most difficult one. We are very good on looking back and looking past historical things, but we're not. The human nature is so good in creating abstract canvases of its future, but is not so good in actually doing it. And we've put together a program of foresight to bring together the system thinking on foresight. I sincerely, I can share with you the link on the chat box later. But basically, the idea is to have system thinking behind data for our future. And this is an example of the latest issue we have published on nature-based solutions. This is taken, and I really listened very carefully what John was referring to, the intersection between energy and all the other aspects on the climate and environment. And in fact, we can only go there with the systems thinking perspective. And I was so happy to see in the video, of course, with the tone of music, but the systems perspective and the system thinking, the systemic thinking behind it. That's what we're trying to do with this data. We're putting together data on biodiversity, pollution, climate change, urbanization, and in order to come to a topic of nature-based solutions, which fits nicely with what Doug was referring to Build Back Better. But we can only tackle that in a kind of a systems thinking perspective. With these foresights, you have already there 23 different topic analyses of foresight. All of them trying to bring together the systems thinking perspective. And this comes back to reality on what we're trying to do on the World Environment Situation Room. And I'll hand over to Doug because he was able to bring this aspect, this dimension of the community-based, youth-led action and to bring in the community power of the youth. And the good thing is that probably will inform you, together UNEP and UN Habitat are going to work with the island of Lanzarote to bring youth together and to the actual use of the World Environment Situation Room and powered by the youth. So over to you, Doug. And again, thank you very much for sharing with you our thoughts.
You are muted, Doug. Or no, you are not muted, but it's not coming through. Sorry, we cannot hear you. Perhaps you briefly leave the room, the StreamYard studio, and then come back.
Mira, do you want me while
yes, please,
Doug is reconnecting? So basically, what we come out to bring together with Doug leadership on the youth and community engagement is to actually bring these component of the community base and youth-led action to join these to the platforms and the World Environment Situation Room and to try to crack at the level of the island of Lanzarote, which is a small island development state. It's part of Spain, but part of the group of the Canary Islands. And we try to test it and to work at this ground level to the two aspects of it. So the combination of the technology, as Amina was very well saying at the beginning, the technology, which is a small component of it, but the people and the action oriented. But Doug is back, so over to him.
Hi, can you hear me now? Yes? Great. So thanks so much, and apologies for, I'm not sure what the technology glitch was. Thanks so much, Alex, as an amazing partner in this process of getting young people involved and really showing the ability to be able to take knowledge and data and use it as a way to bring people together. The challenge I think sometimes we're faced with in this world is that knowledge is not necessarily seen as a convening factor. It's often seen as pulling people apart. And I think that what we're doing, and also, reflecting back on what Miro and the other speakers have said, is that this is really what we're looking forward to, is looking at how we can engage people globally in coming up with solutions and moving forward on the issue of climate change, but also on all the other issues, environmental issues we're facing. So I was really excited to see the video that Miro put up, because this was a pre-Rio Plus 20 video as I took it. And we had, I was honored enough to, UN Habit was honored enough to be the co-sponsor of the youth, the youth program for Rio Plus 20, where we brought hundreds, if not thousands, of young people together to talk about what it meant to move the world forward in terms of environment. I think we saw a lot at that point in 2012. I was also quite involved in the Rio Minus 20 in 1992 as well, when we were also bringing young people together. We had a young woman named Severin Suzuki who spoke. She was 12 years old, and she kind of did what we're now looking forward to, or now moving forward with Greta Thunberg, is when the world is facing challenges when young people, sometimes children, are coming forward and speaking the truth to power and speaking the truth to the world. And this is what Severin Suzuki did in 2012, Greta Thunberg has done now. And I'm not going to try it. I was going to try to show a slide, but I'm not sure if I'd be able to pull that off. I'm not sure what's going on with my system. But we had a really amazing event in COP25 in Madrid, where we brought together 5 young women climate change leaders. Now, this wasn't Greta Thunberg, and I think it was really important to note that it wasn't her. It was these 5 young people from all over the world. So there was Leah from Uganda. There was Chie from who is Mexican indigenous who was there. We had the 3 or 4 other young people. We had also a young man as well, Isaac, who was from the informal settlements. And what we saw at this specific thing, which Miro was also there as well, is we saw these young people who were inspired by what Greta Thunberg was doing, but also wanting to move forward. And this is where the impetus for the program we're developing with UNEP on climate change leaders and what we're calling climate change makers, who are able to, what we're wanting to do is give them the skills, because they already have the drive, and actually they have many of the skills as well, to be able to take leadership in this world and move forward in times that are quite scary. And I think that that combined with the amazing knowledge that UNEP is able to bring through the scenario rooms, and also working with Miro, I think we'll be able to, things will move really quickly. So this Climate Change Maker program that we're launching with the support of Lanzarote in the Canary Islands in Spain, will hopefully be hitting the ground very soon. We already have a curriculum that we've developed through Eco City Center in Vancouver. And we hope that this leadership program will really move through COP26, but as well beyond, where we're going to engage young people globally, very strong focus on young women, and very strong focus on young leaders in the developing world, so that we can really assure that the ecological movement we're creating is both environmentally and socially just, that's inclusive. And as I said at the beginning, and I'll end on this, is as the SDG says, we have to leave no one behind. And it's specifically, we have to make sure that technology is a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it's just technology. It needs to be molded, it needs to be used to be able to move forward and to assure that we all collectively move forward and not leave no one behind. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Doug and Alex, for this wonderful presentation. And I would just like, for this conclusion of this part of the event, really highlight how great assets there are and great initiatives within the UN system. So UN Environment with this platform, World Environment Situation Room, and especially also the tools that you have there on the citizens' science, that's really very valuable, because we need really to get a better understanding of what is going on, where the environmental situation is deteriorating, where there is action needs. And UN Habitat having this connection to the cities and to the local community, really to the level of governance where action and impact happens. And having also John with UNESCO, UN Education, Cultural and Scientific Organization. It's really so huge potentials. And I think that also in the context of the ACE-AT project and also with GloCha, we will help to elevate all our actions in a synergetic way on the next level, and especially also the resource mobilization dimension, because UN systems programs are fed, nurtured by the national governments usually, and there is a lack of funding. But non-party stakeholders, non-state actors, individuals, especially for actions on the local level, they have the financial resources, but there is a need to frame it properly, and then really to create the right tools for impact assessment and for attribution of impacts and this kind of things, that we want to work also with in the context of your initiative of World Environment Situation Room. And with this, I thank you for your participation in this, and I'm delighted to give now the floor to Tali Wögerbauer, our friend and visionary and really a climate action empowerment leader from the Austrian Ministry for Climate Action, and also Action for Climate Empowerment Ambassador for the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. Dali, happy to see you with us here. And please be so kind to share some information about the Action for Climate Empowerment, and in general your views on what needs to be done to get towards more effective climate action.
Thank you, Miro. Dear colleagues, friends, greetings to all. A warm welcome on behalf of the Austrian Federal Ministry for Climate Action. It is a pleasure indeed having this conversation about knowledge-based climate action empowerment in a broader context that is going on beyond the primary home of SDG 13 deliberations within the UN process. It also approaches the climate action empowerment challenge with a view to implementing through inclusive multilateralism not only global climate action goals, but also the broader spectrum of sustainable development goals as agreed upon within the Agenda 2030. Let me briefly explain why I think that the Action for Climate Empowerment program within the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change is so important and why Austria has set up the ACT project to lead globally the process of rethinking and reorganizing ACE. As you know, the 6 elements of Action for Climate Empowerment are well embedded in an international multilateral legal framework, part of the Paris Agreement that has been ratified by 190 countries so far. There is a legal tool ready to be used and implemented. The Austrian ACT project aims to change the perception on ACE. Why? Because party and non-party stakeholders have drawn their focus so far mainly on education and training on climate-related issues. Please don't misunderstand. Education and training is of utmost importance. However, the scope of ACE is much broader. Appropriate access to and comprehensive science-based information on climate, public participation, and overall international cooperation are part of the ACE elements. So why do we not use ACE in its full scope? Convincing people that climate change is potentially as important as other problems in their respective region, such as poverty, unemployment, migration, armed conflicts, corruption, etc., is a significant challenge for climate change strategies. Many experts attribute the receding shorelines and apparent rise in sea levels around Pacific Islands countries to climate change. But it is questionable whether ordinary people are making similar connections. Raising the level of concern about climate change is essential if this is to change. The ACT project argues that civil society, not only in the form of non-governmental organizations, but also in everyday people, offers a very effective means for creating this change. Therefore, we aim to strengthen communication among these stakeholders, international cooperation and multilateralism. NGOs work closely with local communities and can use this relationship to communicate the need to give urgent attention to climate change issues. NGOs also have access to policymakers, including government, which they can use to help align policies with community priorities, and so on and so on. So we need to connect them. And we are happy to have the non-party stakeholders IAI, ECOS, and ICLEI as associated partners to the ACT project. We are happy about them because the UN system needs in general more non-party stakeholders engagement. But we are also happy of the specific innovations that these our partners bring to the table, like for instance, the approach of IAI to set up an ACE non-party stakeholder support structure, which builds on the Global Challenges Actions Network GloCha that IAI has initiated and incubated over the last more than 10 years. Therefore, dear Miro, I would like to hand over to you to explain in more detail our joint plans for an Action for Climate Empowerment non-party stakeholder support structure that we aim to build in Austria and our plans for next events and activities in the coming months. So Miro, please give us more details. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dali. Thanks for your leadership and for your friendship and the opportunity to work with you on this very valuable initiative, which somehow is a pilot project for the whole UN system to engage in a more effective way, non-party stakeholders' resources in the implementation of global goals, in the implementation of the Paris Agreement. So we are in the project several partners, the Ministry for Climate Action, the leader, coordinator, and funder of the project. Then we have the UN Climate Change Secretariat as the lead partner, and my organization, IAI, is representing the education, communication, and outreach stakeholder community, the fourth partner, ICLEI, and this local governments climate action empowerment work we will hear later. So we have as a key deliverable to present a concept and a business plan and some pilot activities for an action for climate empowerment non-party stakeholder support structure in Austria. And the rationale for it is that in the UNFCCC process, there have been discussions about what is needed for really getting all of society empowered for climate action. And both the national governments as well as the non-party stakeholders, the non-state actors, everyone said there's a need for support, globally coordinated support. And the question is now, what kind of support is needed, who will deliver it, and how? And with our work here in the ACT project, we are looking at from a functional perspective, what kind of support structure needs to deliver so that we have really effective climate action of everyone everywhere on the planet. So, and elements that are needed for global community to function as a multi-stakeholder climate action innovation system are identity management for public participation in decision making and the attribution of outcomes of climate action. There's a social networking component needed because the individual feels very often powerless, but if we help to create a social network, a community, and people and institutions bringing together different resources, then it's powerful and a lot can be accomplished. Knowledge management is a very central part of this support structure that we are building, including intellectual resources management. In many places in the world, especially sub-Saharan Africa, there's also a precondition that we access data. Today we will hear also from friends from Slovenia and Serbia, their initiatives on satellite-based internet access provision. And in general, access to technology is something that such a support structure need to deliver, capacity building. And a very central part is also resource mobilization and matchmaking between local and global resource holders and climate action implementers. And there are certain activities within the UNFCCC process, but we are far away from all of society action. Most non-state actors around the world are lacking an entry point in global climate action coordination and incentivization. And that's a gap that we want to fill. And we have a strong data and digital innovation focus in collaboration with the Climate Change Coalition, which is also a partner of today's event. And we will hear Tom Baumann, the co-chair of Climate Change Coalition, later. We are using the social networking platform and curated content publishing platform TrueNet. In a few minutes, you will hear Jim Fournier talking about how this functions. And we are developing conceptual frameworks and digital tools for youth climate action reporting and incentivization. And we have a focus on cities that have declared climate neutrality goals. And here we are working with ICLEI. Again, more content on this later. And then a very central point is also to create a business model, conceptual framework where action for empowerment can be delivered by our support structure, but also by hundreds and thousands of associated entities as a service, which is income generating and which uses incomes also from voluntary carbon footprint compensation payments and payments for services in the context of the individual climate action dashboard platform and app. Important element of the support structure is also gamification, because we need to hearts and the passion of the people, and here competitions, gamifications, and also digital badges collection approaches are very valuable. And one element is also that we on a global level approach philanthropy sector to join us in more participatory and more transparent and impact-oriented efforts. My organization is a partner of the ACE-AT project, but we are also a founder of the Education, Communication and Outreach stakeholder community and of the Climate Change Coalition. And this gives us the opportunity to work in a more systemic manner and really tapping and bringing in to our solutions the expertise and the networks from our partners. And within IAI, we are working on this multi-stakeholder climate action empowerment already since the very beginning of our organization. It's the very DNA of our build. And we have the flagship in this initiative, GloCha, which is the multi-stakeholder partnership. And we have the three pillars: culture, technology, and organization. And there will many of the solutions that we have developed for ACE-ATs are somehow developed further from what we have had with GloCha. One particular solution is blockchain technology-based digital finance solution for climate neutral citizens, crypto stamps as one of rewarding and recognizing climate action contributions. We've presented this at the Daring Cities conference of ICLE in November last year. Our vision is that climate action empowerment will look also in a way that everyone will have on his or her mobile devices an individual climate action dashboard app, and that the climate neutrality efforts will be framed as a digital collection game. And for this to happen, there's a need to collectively invest in a data and digital innovation infrastructure so that we have better identification of people, objects, even identification of projects, of challenges, action for climate empowerment challenges, digital measurement, reporting and verification, smart standards, climate finance, innovation, registration, certification, and incentivization of climate action outcomes, and many more. And it's the link4climate.support homepage where you can find further details about the project and the solutions that we have developed so far. And Dali, would you like to add any points there?
I wish us all a lot of success, and I hope that you will be successful with all these ideas. And I'm looking forward to hear more ideas and visions of our colleagues here in this dialogue. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Dali. And with this, I bring Tim Damon also to the floor, our Youth Climate Action leader and partner with the Global Youth Development Institute, but also acting co-focal point of ECOS, the Education, Communication and Outreach stakeholder community, and really help guide our understanding of what young people need in terms of climate action empowerment. And please, Tim, share with us your perspectives on what is needed for youth climate action empowerment and what the potentials of ACE-AT and GloCha are in this field.
Yes, thank you, Miro, everyone. Very happy to be here, and certainly both GYDI and ECOS are very grateful for the opportunity to be part of the ACT project and all the support from Tali and Austria. So hopefully everyone is familiar with ECOS. That's the Education, Communication, Outreach Stakeholder Community. You can learn more at Climate ECOS. It really is a cross-cutting community of practitioners working on all facets of action for climate empowerment, rooted in the UN climate negotiation process. When we speak then about what we need for youth climate action empowerment, my experience from our organization, which is focused on especially providing meaningful youth engagement opportunities in the climate negotiation process through training, experiential learning, and focusing in particular on young people from global South countries that always are having the most barriers and challenges to their meaningful engagement in that process. We see that, echoing Mina and other remarks, we know what a lot of the solutions are for the climate crisis. What we're lacking is the mobilization. And there are many young people who are on the forefront of trying to implement climate solutions, and they're doing so with no or very little resources, volunteering their hearts out, and accomplishing what they can. But we see that there's this vast untapped potential. If they were properly resourced, had proper supporting infrastructure and mentoring from the older generations, then we would see a massive increase in terms of what they're able to deliver, and hopefully answering well those questions from Mr. Crowley in terms of, is what the young people are doing worthwhile, and then are they getting results, which I would say very much they are, but still needing that additional support and resources, and always making it an intergenerational effort as much as possible. So when it comes then to how we would actually mobilize resources, and can we make this more concrete, one of the innovative ideas we have developed, supported both through ECOS and also Youngo, is this concept of an ACE marketplace. And the idea is simply to create a platform by which you would be able to facilitate those who have ACE-related projects, which doesn't apply only to young people. This would be across all of civil society, to bring their projects and then link these to the potential sources of funding, which governments have already invited through their prior decisions in the climate negotiations. They've invited philanthropy, corporations, other sources to support funding for climate empowerment, but we don't have in place a structure to facilitate that. So if we made this ACE marketplace, it would allow us to bring together a lot of those disparate efforts. And this benefits as well the tracking and reporting, because you'd be able to see all of those actions in one place. And I think this could be a really good balancing of decentralized, organic, grassroots action with also still having some level of centralized coordination and the ability to ask those kinds of questions that are so crucial to knowing if we're making the impact that we should be. So there's really a lot of benefit to come from this kind of a platform, which could go hand in hand as well with the non-party stakeholder support structure. There's a lot of room to synergize this idea with the ACT project's other elements and the other aspects that governments are thinking about. And so we really are expecting, looking ahead toward COP26 in particular, that the new work program adopted on ACE really must address this chronic funding gap, whether that's through the marketplace or some other means. That is really going to define the success, I would say, in terms of whether we're really going to catalyze this potential we have for climate empowerment over this decade, which is essential, as was already said by so many previous speakers, why this matters. But we're not going to get to the SDGs or the Paris Agreement goals without an all of society, massive scale effort of empowerment. And, as well, just to emphasize, young people aren't only making demands for action. but they are bringing the concrete policy solutions and also the specific on-ground actions. And in particular, you can see there's a lot of submissions already which have been made from youth, which align with those from ECOS and other actors, really trying to provide substantive guidance to governments as they think about their role in this, but also saying this is what the role of youth and non-party stakeholders more broadly would be in terms of supporting this action. So as a way of wrapping up, I would just emphasize that we really are in a critical moment right now for all of this work. And so to all of the governments, this is the moment to really prioritize this work. To all of the potential funders and supporters of this work, this is the time to really invest those resources. And we're putting in place the structure and infrastructure resources through Miro and the ACT project, through GloCha Foundation, through ECOS, through GYDI, to be able to really make effective use of that. And so we really invite continued partnerships from everyone in this really important work. So thank you again for being here among so many great colleagues, and looking forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you very much, Tim. And context information also with Tim and with Yango, we've had in 2016 COP22 call for resources for youth climate action, where we somehow had the idea. There's signatories of the Giving Pledge. I don't know how many people there are, but they have a combined wealth of more than $1 trillion. And they said they would give at least back to society before they die half of their wealth. So there are $500 billion in the air. And we thought, why don't try to channel this funding towards youth climate action? And we said, we are aiming for at least $100 million. We didn't succeed yet, but we learned a little on our journey. And we've learned is that the first question was, who will get the funding? If I give $1 million to youth climate action empowerment, how will I know that it makes sense? And here it ties again in what John said. We need a better functioning multi-stakeholder climate action innovation system. And here also youth climate action reporting is a key thing. We have to have mechanisms in place and people can what they are doing, and having a framework, an agreed evaluation framework that we give value to this youth climate action. And for this, it's very important that we are very happy to have Catherine Foster with us from the Open Earth Foundation, and working with the Yale Open Innovation Lab, and an expert also used to work with the Sustainable Digital Finance Alliance and some other, also with the Social Alpha Foundation, really some key institutions in this field that we hope will help young people to get the tools so that they can document and register their earnings, and then really being rewarded by local and global society for these important contributions. And with this, I give the floor to Catherine.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here and to be actually discussing youth and citizen involvement. I wanted to just give a bit of background as to why that resonates with me so much, and that is because I myself was a youth activist growing up in Northern Ontario with an Indigenous background as well, and really fighting for environmental rights myself, and then becoming a Canadian climate diplomat, as well as working on human security. And in the human security network, focusing on war-affected children and children in armed conflict, we learned a lot about bringing in youth as experts, not just as voices and witnesses, but as actual experts in building out solutions and building out the infrastructure for post-conflict reconstruction. And I bring always that element of work with me when I work on innovation, and that's been happening for 30 years. And when I went on to leadership roles with the EU's Climate Kick, and then actually built out a few startups myself, I tried to carry that ethos with me. And as Miro says, I'm now working to lead out the European hub of the Open Earth Foundation, and am actually also a fellow with the Social Alpha Foundation, which helped just fundraise $6.6 million for Open Earth through an NFT digital art auction with great artists like Beeple and whatnot. And this, to me, it brings so many elements that are necessary: youth, art, action, innovation together. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the way that we're doing innovation and some of the issues that I've been seeing in the landscape. And that is that we are actually building out both, the problems in the climate sector and the SDG sector are quite fragmented. The solution space that we've been building out in the last 25 years is quite fragmented. And then the solution space in the technology sector that has come forward has also been fragmented. And we have a lot of misaligned infrastructure and legacy systems to issues to deal with. And so we end up with this overall solution space that is quite fragmented. And this is why I was really happy to join up with Martin Weinstein, who actually does focus on 3 core elements in the work that he's built out from Yale Open Labs that are now under the umbrella of Open Earth Foundation. And that is that we are working on complex systems, from a complex systems perspective, using emerging digital technologies, but in a great integrative way, and a way that is collaborative, and building out open platforms. And the solution space that we look at is from a systems dynamics intervention approach, where we are operating across core inputs, and always focusing on that local to the global, as well as across digital infrastructure that is necessary across carbon accounting systems, for example, from solar to climate finance to carbon markets. So we build out with a systems perspective, but with very concrete projects. And I wanted to also talk about the fact that the way that we see this umbrella institution building out actually addresses a lot of the issues that we're talking about here, is not only the concrete pilot initiatives and the platforms and the projects, but those vertical integrations that are really necessary across sectors and geographies. And the way that we can do this is not only by building out technology, of course, but through integration and through collaboration, and setting up institutional units that do the concrete work, the networking and foundational work, as well as education. And another key element of what we do, which is the collabathon. And the collabathon takes the old model of hackathon and really brings it to the next level. So it is an ongoing collaboration to build out through this collaborative hackathon, linking up of sort of a bottom climate and developer community around nested carbon accounting. And we now have a community of over 1,000 developers around the world, and a network of universities. And we're building out the infrastructure that is necessary for climate accounting to take place, and to sort of plug in from that local to the global level. And this is something that I think we can bring to the network and to this dialogue. It's the idea of bringing that cutting edge technology and value, and the constant collaboration through a series of events, dialogues, and workshops to build out sort of this climate network. And we're very grateful to the many collaborators and partners that we have in this space. I also wanted to just pay homage to the Social Alpha Foundation, which was established by Jehan Chu. And he and his partner created Social Alpha Foundation to fund worthwhile climate innovation using DLT. And they've been very supportive of Open Earth Foundation. And through this carbon drop auction, we saw the opportunity to, again, bridge climate action with the NFT art auction space, which has been facing challenges around energy consumption and climate. So we were able to solve for sort of the auction space itself and how to become carbon negative in that space, while also fundraising for worthwhile initiatives. And I'm really looking forward to working with them over the next year to build out their grant cycle and to serve as a sort of a thought leader and fellow for them in this space. And so together with these organizations, I'm really looking forward to collaborating with this great network.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be with you and with all the expertise that you have in the field. And congratulations to the successful digital art auction. And we have discussed already that we will also try to connect with these climate action youth networks and also the young artists from around the world to have a collection of digital art that we will then also use for resource mobilization for youth climate action. And I count on you to help us to succeed on that front. And with this, I will add now also to the floor Jim Fournier from the TrueNet platform, another wonderful partner that we are very happy to work with now. And Jim, please tell us how your platform can help movements and to form and communities to emerge and content to be attributed to the owners and data protection and this kind of things. Please, Jim.
Thank you, Miro. It's a pleasure to be here. And Catherine, that was very inspiring. I look forward to a conversation beyond this event. Just a little background on True. We've been at this in some ways for about 20 years. True came out of a nonprofit called Planet Work, which convened a conference following the .com crash in May of 2000. And as a result of that, ultimately about 50 IT and media professionals met for about 2 years and wrote a white paper about social networks for civil society before LinkedIn and Facebook. That white paper at asn.planetwork.net is remarkably still relevant now, 20 years later, in that in many ways the internet has gone in a different direction than what we hoped 20 years ago. What we're doing with True is really the result of both that 2 decades of working and paying attention to the digital space. And then I've also had a personal relationship with the other side of Planet Work, with sustainability, biodiversity. Planet Work was present in Johannesburg at Rio+10. We were there at the World Social Forum in Porto Alegre, and I've participated in the COP for 3 years, including at Copenhagen. True was originally incorporated as Carbon Path, wanting to take some of the technology we've been doing and use it for carbon accounting. True itself appears as a social network. It's a platform where organizations and groups connect with each other and people connect to groups. It's also deeper than a platform. True is built on some interoperable, digitally signed technology that is different than blockchain, but can kind of connect to it. You could think of it as the off-chain layer for signing things where a lot of the interactions really needed. So we're happy to be partnering with ACE AT and providing initially a platform that can be used for multi-stakeholder organizing, And the paradigm is very much one of self-organizing and then publishing between organizations, and letting those publishing relationships create browsable networks of related organizations. So True is really designed to be an infrastructure for multi-stakeholder organization, discovery, and publishing. And it's built on open protocols, something called the DID spec, which is an open standard for digital identity, and then the J-Link protocol, which allows you to move data between completely different separate legacy systems with permission. I know that's a little bit more in the technical weeds than probably most of the audience want. At the top level, True provides a safe, clean alternative to social, where people really own their own identity. They can operate under a persistent handle or their real name, which is important to a lot of youth, and where the whole system is built on a GDPR compliant level personal data control and rights system. So it's completely going the other direction from where a lot of the existing social is right now. I think with that introduction, I'm going to wrap up. I think we may be a little over time, and maybe I can help catch us up.
Thank you very much, Jim, for having presented your work and your platform. We are very happy to be partnering with you, because I really think that's the next generation of social networking platform, because the existing mainstream platforms, they're really using our data, exploiting our data, and the user, the customer does not have any benefit and no control about this data. And with your platform, this is possible. And for us, it's also very important, the plan that we will give people the possibility to define action for climate empowerment, climate action challenges on the platform. And then around these challenges that communities can evolve, digital communities which agree that in a certain location, a certain action needs to be taken, and then really the community putting together knowledge, financial resources, volunteering time, or whatever. And we have set up on TrueNet also an ACE AT forum, a hub, but we are still learning. It's not really there for mass mobilization, but we hope to have mass mobilization and hundreds, if not thousands, of members on this TrueNet ACE AT hub in the run up to the COP26 and beyond. And with this, I am happy to welcome here on StreamYard at our UN Science Technology Innovation Forum side event some youth leaders, Ali Mustafa from the Generation Next Voice of Youth Network, which is also a project initiative under the GloCha Foundation New York. And Ali is a youth leader at the UN headquarters in New York, our youth delegate for several years, and led also the formation in the UN Department of Global Communication Programs, and really a superhero in youth engagement in the UN system. Ali, please share us your thoughts, what you think is needed for youth climate action empowerment and for the future fit UN system.
Thank you, Miro, and everyone for welcoming me and giving me this opportunity to speak at this forum, and for the wonderful remarks that you have passed. The topic indeed is very important, as you have asked me, like how we can accelerate these actions. First of all, I would like to tell you that the spread of information and the spread of information that how urgent this problem is very important. Um, I'm speaking on the behalf of young people. There are young people all around the world, and we work with the people all around the world in Asia, in South Asia, in Africa, in Europe, North America, South America, Australia, New Zealand, in all of these places. And the most important problem that I see right now is that there in many places still there is a need that the youth should understand that how the problem is urgent. For example, if I give you the example of Africa and in South Asia, they are not able to understand that how this problem of climate change is affecting us and how it is affecting them, because there is a lack of resources over there, lack of the flow of information is over there, because they don't have that infrastructure, they don't have that kind of technology, and even there is a flaw, or I would say that there is a gap in their educational system that is not making them aware of such problems. Though there are disastrous things going on, the part of the world that I belong to from Karachi, um, there are heat waves, there are extreme rains. The flood is flood. The flood last year have killed hundreds of people. 2 years ago, there were like thousands of people in 1 month died just because of extreme heat waves. And those there were scientific proofs that those heat waves were man created because of the city's structure and infrastructure. So this is very important that we spread the information and make such young people and the leaders in such places realize that this problem is urgent and there is something is there's needed to be done. And that's where we come into play, the network of Generation Next, in collaboration with the United Nations and the GloCha, as Miro mentioned. So we have created a network of young people. Our aim is to create a network in almost every city, which does seems difficult but not impossible. And we have been successful in creating our network in at least 50 cities, and we have been doing some sort of activities there also. And most importantly, our network is based into the cities that belongs in Africa, in South Asia, in eastern part of the Asia, and the most of the network are in the less or underdeveloped countries and communities. So the focus of the United Nations and UNFCCC should be on those areas where this information is not taken as the urgent, and where they are not taking this problem serious for the climate change, because it's not only affecting them, it's affecting the entire world as well. If we are taking action in North America or in Europe, and while there is nothing or very less is done in Africa or in the Asia or in some other parts, then no matter how much efforts we do, how much actions we take in other part of the world, it is not going to work out for the entire universe. So through these networks, we are trying to mobilize young people. That is a good thing about the youth in such areas, in such countries, that they are understanding what the problem is, how it is affecting them, and how it is urgent. And we are trying to tell them how we can take actions and how we can mobilize them. So we have our own action plan. We are collaborating with the United Nations. We are collaborating with the civil society organizations to reach out those places, to reach out those communities, create our network, and make them do the actions. We are trying to work them on their capacity building, how we can help them take action in their communities. So so far, I think we have been successful on not on that level that we were supposed to, but we are on our way, and we have been very successful in mobilizing young people in such countries and such communities, and we are, of course, hoping for the best with the help of technology.
Thank you very much, Ali. Congratulations to the great work. Yeah, and I'm now happy to present Eileen Doohan and Tom McGrath with the Climate Hacks Initiative, which is also initiative under the GloCha Foundation New York, with GloCha Foundation as a fiscal sponsor, and connecting also and empowering young people in a very concrete way, building a global network. And please, Aline and Tom, tell us more about your work and how you are approaching youth climate action empowerment.
Yes, hello. Thank you, Miro, and thank you, Ali, for sharing your specific thoughts on your network of networks. Ali's group, Generation Next Voice of Youth, is a key project of projects in climatehacks.org. We have built a digital framework to enhance trust and accelerate the implementation of climate solutions, particularly youth-led and locally led climate solutions. Let's see, I'm just trying to open my screen up, and Miro, would you be able to present the slide deck? I'm not familiar with that. That would be helpful. Thank you. In any event, I wanted to head back to what Doug Reagan mentioned earlier in the event. He mentioned a youth activist, Leah Namargwal from Uganda, and she is also on our climatehacks.org with her birthday Trees of Uganda. I met her through Twitter after the Climate Youth Summit in 2019. And that's when we launched our DAO of DAOs, and we actually launched the actual blockchain for it at COP25 in Madrid. Leah plants trees beginning as a very young teenager, trying to understand why there was so much erosion throughout her community, and how could villages have been planted and formed downriver of these landslides. They wouldn't be landsliding. So what's changed? And of course, it's the deforestation. And so she has galvanized a group of youth within Uganda and also around Africa now with her Birthday Trees project. And she was raised up on Doug Reagan's platform there at Madrid for the youth voice. And we have her showcased on our climatehacks.org as well. Miro, if you could advance a few slides, that would be wonderful. I appreciate that. I'm sorry that I'm not familiar with StreamYard. Just thank you for your support. What we'll do is we'll go through the Generation Next Voice of Youth, continue on, Miro, and we'll show that we have DAO partners as well as project partners. So DAO nodes and project nodes. Around the circle on the outside is the DAO nodes, and these are our partners that will help to build the trust for these locally led and youth-led projects. Receive the measurement, reporting, and verification digital ledger, and then acknowledge action that's being done at the local level, and then allow the funding of social capital and financial capital, carbon tokens, etc., to flow down to these locally led groups because of using their own social capital to support these locally led projects. So for example, we have GloCha at the top there. And you can see that Generation Next Voice of Youth has multiple projects within their network, but we communicate through the main partner node, which would be Ali and his core team of managers. But ultimately, the actual work is being done in a decentralized manner, not pushed down, but flowing up. So it's a bottom-up, locally led. This is the actual DAO stack itself. We have the digital ledger technology, which is essentially a flat file of measurements that we then report on. And it is on a blockchain. We do not use smart contract at this time, but we have established a DAO of DAOs, a decentralized autonomous organization. And I know that Doug Reagan and also John Crowley were discussing this type of decentralized and empowering activity. And this is a digital framework to support that and help accelerate the activities at these local projects. This is the actual Raspberry Pi computer. Tom is holding that up. Tom, would you like to speak to that? Oh, I don't hear you. I don't hear you, Tom. You're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yes, the nodes themselves are these Raspberry Pis, and we have these, let me see, in 4 continents, and these are connected through, basically hold a DLT on a blockchain, and this is the low energy networking that I think we were previously talking about on different threads here. So yeah, and basically the idea is to drive the youth climate actions to, like Eileen said, to get social capital, as well as driving carbon credits and tokens to specific projects. And these, of course, are based on international standards. So there's qualitative and quantitative data on a trusted DLT in a blockchain structure.
Low energy blockchain structure. And I just wanted to add that, Amanda Gorman was our poet for the inaugural this January, and she closed with a lovely saying, and just we've had some discussion about music and intellectual theory. I just wanted to end on the end of her poem. For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. And so thank you to all the climate activists, especially the youth, who are doing what we need on the ground. And thank you, Ali. Yeah. Thanks, Miro, for this opportunity to speak.
You are very welcome, and looking forward to great successes with empowering youth climate action with technology on the local level and with a global network. And with this, I'm happy to welcome Domenico Vito from Climate Reality Project Italy, and one of the youth climate action leaders in Milano, getting Milano ready for the pre-COP youth event in September, which will be one of the biggest youth mobilizations for climate and an important youth climate action empowerment event. So Vito, please tell us a little bit about your views on what is needed for youth climate action empowerment and how we can connect opportunities and resources.
Thank you, Miro, for inviting me. Thank you, GloCha, for this great initiative. I will start saying that I heard several words that resonate also in my mind, like music, technology, and so on. And I think that these are the right words to also get prepared for this great opportunity that also Milan is going to host, that are the pre-COP negotiation and Youth for Climate. So as you know, this year there will be this great event properly related to youth, and indeed the ACE dialogue and the ACE action need to be fostered and acknowledged for between all the stakeholders. So it's important also to, as Miro said, engage, because we have to be ready, we have to work closely with all the stakeholders. And in fact, with my organization, Climate Reality, we are fostering this path to also get prepared towards this great event that is make just a green recovery a reality, getting ready for pre-COP. And properly on that, it is important to also think about events and chances in which the youth can be involved and can be involved actively. I very appreciate the words of my colleague Tim, that he said that the youths are not just bringer of needs, but also bringer of solutions. And for example, digital solution is something that youths are very keen to give. And for example, yes, properly relating to the data contents and the role of IT and citizen science is, for example, very important and very also interesting to think about events like hackathon or other ways of collective engagement. And of course, I said music. Me, myself, I'm a musician. I don't know if you see in my back, there is like a tambourine that is like typical of my zone. And of course, these two words, music, technology, and youth engagement, are getting vibrant. These like preparation towards the pre-COP and Youth for Climate.
Wonderful. Great to have also another one who loves music. Just briefly, an anecdote. When I've attended the Youth Summer School of the UN Alliance of Civilizations, and the organizers asked the 100 plus participants to tell in 3 words what defines them. 2/3 of them said music. That was really, it's really, music is powerful. It somehow at the Science, Technology, Innovation Forum, one might be surprised why we are talking about music, but it is so powerful and so important for especially young people. And so, yeah, we will explore also whether we could do a hackathon in the context of the pre-COP youth event, and with a focus on youth climate action reporting and also innovative resource mobilization using crypto stamps, digital badges, and voluntary carbon footprint compensation, a topic that we will also briefly discuss with our next speakers. But before we conclude this session now here about youth climate action empowerment, I will show you also a video from that conference that I've mentioned already at the beginning, the GloCha conference 2014 in Klagenfurt, where we have presented the Klagenfurt Leadership Declaration on Global Challenges, Youth and ICT. And it's really the determination of my organization and our partners to build here some point of crystallization where systemic solutions will emerge and where partnership will be forged, where resources will be mobilized, where we will also invite resource holders in the context of the ACT project. And here, our president, Michael Platzer, who you will hear also towards the end of today's event, but presenting the Klagenfurt Leadership Declaration on Global Challenges, Youth and ICT in the festive hall of the Austrian regional government in Klagenfurt.
Madam Mayor, you should understand that Miro's map of the world has Klagenfurt in the middle of it. So it's a little different. But I'm going to read something which is, I think, the summation of these groups' work for the past 2 days. And today is World Environment Day. We had already celebrated it briefly in a small ceremony, but we have our Klagenfurt Leadership Declaration on Global Challenges, Youth and ICT. I recognize Miro's
long sentences.
Long sentences. So, aware of the utmost importance of the United Nations systems emerging post-2015 sustainable development agenda for the well-being of intergenerational and international justice of present and future generations. With the main message, everyone can and shall contribute to a sustainable development on local and global level. Recalling the outstanding youth engagement success of the Rio +20 Global Youth Music Contest, which started with a preparatory workshop and a conference at Maria Loreto here in Klagenfurt in September 2011. So again, Klagenfurt in the center of the world. Aware of the abundance of availability of social, natural, and financial capital in Carinthia, Austria, Alps, Adria, region of Central Europe, that can potentially be challenged through high social impact investment for the benefit of all humanity while impacting positively regional development here in Carinthia. Determined to strengthen the United Nations system through innovative multi-stakeholder action and youth engagement. Declare our support for the plan of the IAAI and its local and national and international private and public partners to establish in Klagenfurt at Lake Wörthersee a global youth hub of information, communication technologies, and innovation for sustainable development. So this is the issue.
So that's our declaration, and an important partner for having really youth climate action empowerment getting implemented globally is ICLEI. It's the network of hundreds of cities working on sustainability and climate action, leading organization in UN processes with regard to sustainable development and climate action. And Yunus has really be also a thought leader in the Action for Climate Empowerment program and how to get cities involved, multi-level climate governance, and ICLEI is also a partner of ACE-AT project, and we are happy to have you with us today, and would now kindly invite you to share with us your views on how this climate action empowerment of communities, of cities could look like, and also how cities can be the empowerer and enabler of youth climate action empowerment. And happy to introduce also Pouria Salehi, the Senior Research Officer at ICLEI, who will add also perspectives on the topic. And Yunus, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miro. It's always a pleasure to join the sessions, events organized by your excellent network and vision. This is another arena that we are together. Just last week we were at the Earth Day celebration with the comeback of the US, and now we're in the UN Science and Technology Innovation Forum. I think it's really good that we discuss this concept of citizen engagement, youth empowerment, climate neutrality, climate action at all spaces. So it's not just limited to the climate freaks, that isn't the ones who are following the UNFCCC or UNCCC, but all communities of today's innovation communities should hear about what's going on. I'm also very happy that I will be followed by my colleague Pouria after my session. So I have the opportunity to focus on a bit more my discussions on how we are able to connect to the youth and the climate neutrality, but Pouria will also focus a bit more on the digital innovation as well. Maybe we could start with this, the era that we are in, the Paris Agreement. Once again, it's worthwhile to recall, it is different than the previous 20 years of UN climate change efforts. Why? We all know UN Climate Convention is a legacy from Agenda 21 that was adopted in Earth Summit in 1992, which was the first time stakeholder concept, the major groups were acknowledged, and youth was one of them. Gender, trade unions, farmers, and local governments, local authorities were also one of them. But unfortunately, although it was a legacy of Earth Summit, which was agreed in Rio, UN climate change, the convention itself, and the Kyoto Protocol afterwards did not recognize any specific role for local governments. And after all these years, especially including the failure in Copenhagen, where people were worldwide, there were efforts to redesign the global climate architecture, we were always asking that, no, you made this mistake twice, don't repeat it the third time, so that bring your local and regional governments into your efforts, so that this is part of the machinery. And once again, the power of local governments, be it procurement, be it legislation, and be it the urbanization world, it's all around the world, north and south, we cannot be ignored. We should be acknowledged as an important partner. So that was enshrined in the Paris Agreement, which means that in the preamble paragraph of the Paris Agreement, it says, we recognize that national governments, the heads of state, recognize importance of engagement of all levels of government. Well, this was easy to write. It was not easy, of course. It was 8 to 10 years of work. But still, it is now easy to say it, but the important is how to demonstrate, how to implement. And that is why it's not enough just local governments being acknowledged. Local governments should be encouraged to bring the voice of their citizens into their decision-making bodies or the processes. And that was the thing that was relatively accelerated over the past couple of years, especially in 2019, the famous Fridays for Future movement. Let's recall the Climate Emergency Declaration. The first city in 2016 was in Australia. The city Darebin in Australia, who adopted for the first time at the council level a climate emergency declaration. For the first 3 years of this process, the number of cities who adopted climate emergencies council decisions were relatively a handful. It was not too many. There were efforts to encourage, but city administrations were not easy to adopt such ambitious goals. How did it roll out globally? It was Fridays for Future. It was the youth demanding action. So that this is the reason why it is essential to reach to the goals of Paris Agreement. We have to have national governments recognize local governments. Local government should have their citizens encouraged to the councils, to their planning, so that it is complete multi-level collaborative action that is the new normal under the Paris Agreement. Let me give you a couple of more examples, because that was we repeated it for a number of sessions in GloCha sessions, but it is worthwhile to mention it again. The example of city of Bonn. It has been one of the pioneering cities in the world, but it was so hard for them also to adopt climate neutrality. So they first invited Fridays for Future to the city council meeting. They adopted the climate emergency declaration. 3 months later, they adopted a climate neutrality goal, which is 3 years earlier than German government's coal phase out. And a couple of months later, and that is the new thing, that is, I think, again, an innovation that we can think about, City of Bonn had made one more step forward. So the climate neutrality target of City of Bonn, 2035 goal, will not be an effort only by the city staff. It is now a collaboration. The new we have a new council, we have a new government in the city of Bonn. They have made a collaboration agreement with the initiative called Bonn for Future, which is the citizen group who have been asking for this climate neutrality targets. They have already advocated for this. Now with the new administration, they have signed an MOU, an agreement, collaboration agreement, so that they will mobilize the citizens of Bonn to support the city of Bonn's climate neutrality goals. And that is exactly the type of examples that we want to increase. For example, they will create a citizens assembly, which will become very fashionable, 100 randomly selected representatives, citizens of Bonn, who would contribute to this planning. And more importantly, that will be speaking to your heart and mind, I guess, Miro. They will introduce digital mechanisms, how the citizens can engage to the climate neutrality targets of the city of Bonn. So these are the ideas that has to spread around the world. And again, after Bonn, another example was in Recife, far away from the German continent soil. It was in Brazil. They adopted climate neutrality, climate emergency declaration. The city has elected the first youngest mayor in Brazil, and now they are on track for climate neutrality with their agreements. So this citizen engagement at the city level is the fastest route to reach the climate neutrality that nations could inspire themselves, or they can encourage all the other citizens. And lastly, we are trying to test such examples also in Japan, in Korea, and in the US, so that it is not it's not just unique for small communities, but all around the cities and citizens, they could inspire, and they can make this part of their, let's say, priority plans in their climate action and climate planning. So that is, I think, type of innovations we could see more and more. We as ICLEI will be ready to share these examples, and we would like to connect from your information, your tools, so that our members who are committed to climate neutrality, which is around 500 across the world, they can also embrace these tools so that they can also speed up their work. And that is the key message. Now, the question is not if or what. The question is how quick we can deliver all these commitments and how quick we can bring all our citizens into the processes.
Wow, perfect. No, it's really such an important work that you are doing. And as you said, the UN made a failure that they didn't include subnational governments in their institutional design, in their intervention logic, because otherwise we would have much more effective UN system. And we are now happy to have you in the ACE-AT project and also helping us innovate and to find better solutions in the ACE project and in the ACE-AT support structure, and hoping that it will have a ripple effect and systemic shift effects also in other UN processes. And happy to have now also Tom Baumann with us, also in the context of Puria's now intervention, because Tom Baumann is the co-chair of the Climate Change Coalition and co-founder of the Digital Innovation Community within the UNFCCC process. And it's a key enabler for cities to become climate neutral and to provide better climate action empowerment support for their citizens and youth is data and digital innovation. And this will Puria talk about. And please, Puria, take the floor.
Sure. Thank you so much, Miro. First of all, really appreciate for having me. And it's a pleasure to be here on this panel with you, Yunus and Tom. And this is really heartwarming to see that we are building upon our previous conversations. Also, what we discussed at Daring Cities on digitalization session, when we actually shed a light on the fact that we need to involve citizens while including local governments in the climate action as well. So I guess Yunus shared a wealth of information for all the audience, and this is very interesting and nicely defined approach that ICLEI has to this topic. So I would like to talk a little bit from a different perspective slightly, and talking about like digital innovation and resource mobilization needs for climate action, empowerments of cities and citizens. Of course, there's no news that like for the climate action, to make sure that we have effective climate action at the local level, we need to empower cities and citizens. And when you're talking about citizens, citizens are part of microsystems within the cities. And I was having earlier a conversation with Yunus that like those cities that are committing to climate neutrality need also climate neutral citizens, right? So in looking into empowerment, apart from just like talking about, we always talk the talk, but if you want to really walk the talk, we need to see what is required to make sure we empower cities and citizens, and probably things like sense of ownership for citizens for the climate actions at their jurisdiction, the place of the place in which they live comes to their mind. Ideas like policy labs in which citizens could contribute, and also like this knowledge sharing with the citizens. And of course, transparency, which is one of the key aspects that we need to consider. And when it comes to empowering cities, probably data is one of the key things that is always needed, because without data, we cannot really define proper, precise plans and climate actions to tackle climate change. And then also, there is a need for multi-level governance. Again, eradication of asymmetric knowledge and cross-departmental collaboration, and also enabling national level policy frameworks. But then when we think about these facts and prerequisites, then we would ask what could be the things that digital innovation could potentially bring to the table to realize those things and to pave the way towards empowering cities and citizens, right? When we're talking about transparency as an example, I guess blockchain has proved that that could be one of the technologies that can enhance transparency across the community. When it comes to knowledge sharing, I guess deployment of technological solutions can ensure not only a unidirectional knowledge sharing, but also a bilateral knowledge sharing to ensure that citizens have their say in climate action, which is quite important. And when it comes to cities, of course, it's no news that like how this digital innovation and digital tools are being deployed increasingly by cities. to ensure that they can tackle climate action. One of the key examples is the precision, right? Increased precision for targeting climate action, for reporting, monitoring, city data, and all of this thing could obviously be tackled through digital tools and digital innovation. But when we talk about citizens, however, like one of the key things that we can use, apart from providing access for them to information, providing transparency, making sure their voice is heard, but we can also think of behavioral change. Like nowadays, AI and machine learning based tools or blockchain technology solutions are incentivizing behavioral change, right? Just let me give this example of EcoCard that now offsets over 5 million pounds of carbon dioxide. And we now have over 3,000 people using the Chrome extension and are doubling user base every month, basically. Another very interesting example from our very own network is the initiative in Seoul. Basically, this project called EcoMileage is an initiative based in Seoul, which allows people to sign up as members and reduce the greenhouse gas emissions of the cities. So again, this links to the previous point that I mentioned. Those cities like Seoul that have committed to climate neutrality, they need climate neutral citizens. And citizens under that initiative are encouraged to participate and basically guided on how to save electricity, water, and city gas. And these savings are exchanged for miles, which can be reinvested in low carbon activities such as purchasing eco-friendly products. I'll make sure to drop the link for that, although it's in Korean, but it's very helpful to just as an example for that. But it is not only limited to that. Digital innovation can basically push disruptive leadership. This bottom-up approach when it comes to climate action, it is definitely needed to make sure that we don't only and necessarily take top-down approach, but also bottom-up approach. And so many other examples that I'm sure you're all well aware of it. But then for realization of all of this, for empowering citizens and cities, we need resources. We need different type of resources. We need knowledge. We need data. We need technology. We need human resource. We need capacity development and training for the city staff. We need social coordination, and also we need infrastructure. Infrastructure can play a key role in that context, and particularly when you look into global south and global north, and knowing that the distribution of this sort of technologies and infrastructures are not equal, we can think of what we could provide through a digital transformative approach that cities in global south could also benefit from that platform, that approach, that solution, same as cities in global north. But one key resource is very important, and that's financial resources. Because without financial resources, none of the above-mentioned resources could be mobilized, right? And these days, I believe digital innovation and digital technologies are proving how they could be effective with regard to mobilizing financial resources. I remember, Miro, you were mentioning People's Money Report by Digital Finance Task Force at the UN, and how they are incentivizing and encouraging and promoting decentralized financing approaches for climate action at the local level. And I would like to close my my intervention with one fact, and that's about basically call for collaboration. I believe for resource mobilization and for further empowerment of cities and citizens, we need to scale up a collaboration and partnership between key players. Given the example of ICLEI and IAAI here, like ICLEI as a leading global network of cities working with more than 2,500 cities across the globe, knowing and understanding their needs and the specifications, also region-specific needs on the one hand, and then looking into the organization under your mandate, the Global Challenge Action Network, that basically designing technological and non-technological solutions for global and local action for climate empowerment, which is linked to basically UN digital cooperation agenda. So you see how these two actors can collaborate and tackle the existing challenges, and basically ensuring that this resource mobilization could be realized. I can give this example of this post-COVID recovery funds and European Green Deal funding, that through this type of collaboration could be realized that cities and citizens will have access to these type of fundings, and then they will be further empowered in their path towards becoming climate neutral. Thank you so much for the time that you gave to me for my intervention. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Puria, and thank you very much, Yunus. Your organization is really one of the best, I know, in this field, in the UN processes, because you have this great understanding, systemic understanding, then the advocacy work, and also a very strong research unit and a strong data focus, and that's really perfect. That's the way how the world should function, and happy to have you, and happy to have also Douglas now back here, as this is the cities and local communities and settlements session. I wanted to give also Doug the chance to say also a few words, as Doug is also a founding member of the digital innovation community at COP25. He has been also with us. So before giving then the floor to Tom and Alexei, Doug, if you want to comment a little bit on these topics.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, and thanks for the really great presentations. I think I've taken up a lot of space in the beginning and such. I'll just say that, I mean, obviously, I'm coming from a digital innovation youth and digital innovation in communities, the need and the opportunities to have community-driven, sometimes youth-driven data, I think is really, really critical to where we're going. I think I do much of our work is in the informal settlements and slums globally. There's 1 billion people living there, the vast majority of them young, under the age of 30. And also the highest risk. I live here in Kenya. Currently, we have insanely torrential rains that are quite odd for this time of year. And what you see is, massive flooding, landslides, collapse of buildings, and in general, just horrific conditions to live in. So, I mean, I think that what we're looking at around climate adaptation and what we can do in these informal settlements is critical. But by the definition of informality, what it means is informal and unplanned is that we don't believe, or at least we don't have informal data sets, what is happening in these communities. We often have, we don't know who's living there, where they're living, we kind of have vague ideas of density. And so I think what we've done a lot of in terms of just innovation, and I'll just quickly sketch this out, is we have a group here called Spatial Collective, which has been doing work in the informal settlements and gathering geospatial data and through participatory innovate, working with young people, training them, and so on. And again, you start breaking down or advancing this what we consider informality and making it much more formal, so that we actually know what services are needed, what risks are there, and how to plan. Without knowledge about these sites, there's no way of planning. There's no way of knowing what next steps are. So I'm really technology, I think, is really critical. But again, as I said in the beginning, is the need to assure that we leave no one behind. The need to assure that data is community accessible as well as community driven as much as possible. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Doug. I've drawn back to the screen also Tali, because I wanted to highlight that Tali has been the the one who brought ICLEI to the ACE-AT project. And this was such a smart and brilliant decision and move. And therefore, I thought perhaps you want to conclude the ICLEI presentation or to say a few words about having ICLEI as a partner in ACE-AT.
Thank you, Miro. It's amazing. Maybe, I don't know how you managed it, but probably you have read my thoughts. Indeed, I wanted to make a short intervention, and I appreciated a lot the analysis of Purya. Thanks a lot. Kheli mamnoon, merci. And I'm very proud to have ICLEI on board, because they are really a valuable ally in tackling climate change, in bringing information to society, to civil society, in encourage them to engage. And overall, ICLEI has the experience to connect everyday people with party stakeholders, with governments, with governmental organizations. So I think such a dialogue, what we have today, are extremely important. And thank you so much, Miro, for organizing this and connecting all these experienced and engaged people. I was really amazed having heard all those interventions. As a negotiator and a dinosaur of the UNFCCC process, frankly, and shame on me, I wasn't aware how many engaged and experienced people are acting beyond the UNFCCC process in tackling climate change. And I think it's time to make it visible also for my colleagues within the UNFCCC process, and especially my governmental colleagues, so negotiators, parties, because I assume that they are not really aware, as I was, how many engaged people from civil society, non-party stakeholders are supporting us governmental representatives in negotiating and finding solutions for tackling climate change. I mean, it's incredible. And therefore, I think we really should continue to have such dialogues, such conversations, to connect people. And overall, I will do my best and try to get some financing. I can't promise it now, but believe me, I try also to convince my colleagues from the European Union and others to try to provide some financial resources, not only for youth and young activists, but also for all the other non-party stakeholders, because again, it's amazing what you're doing. Congrats to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for these inspiring and encouraging words. Very much appreciated. And with this, we come to our leaders in the field of climate, of digital innovation for climate action, and perhaps adding also Doug back, because Doug is also a member of the digital innovation community within the UNFCCC process. So Tom Baumann, the Spiritus Rector and somehow the leader of the Climate Change Coalition. Tom will tell more about what it is and how it is connected with the UN Climate Change Secretariat. But it's really such an important social innovation and governance innovation that builds a bridge between digital solution providers and those who are governing global climate action and managing resource flows. Tom, please, first, thanks for your great work and leadership, and please tell us about, share with our audience what you work and what you think.
Thanks very much, Miroslav. I just unmuted myself. Can you see my screen?
Yes. I know the screen. Wait a minute. I will edit now. Yeah, having it. Okay. Yeah, it's full screen now.
Screen. Okay. Thank you very much, Miroslav, and hello, everyone.
Anymore.
It's not okay.
It was, but now it's not no more. Yes.
Good? Okay, very good. Hello, everyone, and thanks, Miroslav, for the opportunity to participate in today's event. I'm happy to introduce, for those who are not familiar yet with the Climate Change Coalition, a little bit about the organization and our membership, and then speak more specifically about the opportunity for citizens and youths to also leverage digital innovations to be able to participate more effectively in the development or co-creation of the rules for climate accounting, for the data flows, for generating the metrics, and doing the valuation to facilitate climate actions through the mobilization of resources, and more specifically to some of the previous points on influencing the behavior change needed to help achieve the goals of the Paris Agreement. And this is, in my opinion, a truly important core part of empowering citizens and youths so that the decarbonization, achieving resilience and sustainability is not just a cost-effective exercise, but enables the just transition, and to really achieve the transformational change we want to see in our communities in terms of physical sustainability. There's a corresponding need for transformational change in how governance happens and how people are more empowered to be involved in how those digital solutions are designed and deployed. And that really gets to what the Climate Change Coalition is all about. Although Miroslav mentioned I'm somewhat de facto leader, maybe on paper, really the Climate Change Coalition as a multi-stakeholder global network is member driven. And so really the members are, in a way, leaders in their areas of interest. So following me, Alexei, for example, his efforts, and Miroslav and many others, working in addressing the multitude of issues that touch on digital innovations for climate. And so we facilitate some of the networking and partnering, and you'll see some logos on the screen for organizations that we work with. The coalition is co-chaired with the UN Climate Change Secretariat, but we also link to some of the technology communities to facilitate the dialogue between the climate community and its multi-stakeholder networks with the technology community, which also needs to better understand the user community. And indeed, the Climate Change Coalition, which as of the last few weeks surpassed 250 organizational members, each often having a multitude of individuals participating in around 50 countries, is really distributed globally, as the map showed, but also in terms of the type of participants. So only about 40 or 50% of the members are digital solution developers, and half or even a bit more than half are the user community from all different types, academia and NGO and communities and industry and governments and so on. So bringing together that multitude of interests is critical to coming up with a good system of digital solutions that need to be applied across all of the climate change issues, not just mitigation, of course, but adaptation and finance. And this slide here quickly gives an overview using IoT for smart climate actions like smart agriculture, smart mobility, smart cities, smart buildings, and so on, is one use of digital solutions in combination with blockchain and distributed ledgers. And perhaps two of the most predominant areas of application are in renewable power and land use, but also in using blockchain and tokens and so on for carbon credits in terms of registries and transacting markets, but also in the area of digital finance. And that's an area that Alexei's a leader in. As well as in low carbon supply chains. Same thing could be said for communities. And I'm going to focus on the last couple of bullets in my next few slides, which are using these digital solutions to support measurement, reporting, and verification. In other words, the data flows and the accounting to come up with the basis upon which decision making is made to not only mobilize resources, but for individuals and companies to make better decisions in terms of greening products and supply chains and our overall lifestyles. And then more to the digitally empowered governance innovations and how rules around climate can be more customized to local communities and yet still maintain the cohesiveness of the climate action accounting so that all of the activities that are happening when aggregated come up to a national or whatever the boundaries are amount that has environmental integrity and avoids the double counting and double spend and so on. So work in this area has been going on for a number of years, and I've just got 3 examples up on the screen right now in terms of using digital innovations for MRV, for climate actions is many, many years, and also for carbon markets. So back in 2018, the World Bank highlighted digital innovations for post-2020 carbon markets in terms of transparency and enforcing consistent rules or standards implementation, for example, using smart contracts, as well highlighting the potential for collaborative governance systems that are digitally empowered to create this system of new standards that have been developed with digital implementation in mind, again, to enforce consistent application and to ensure that the data flowing amongst all of those activities is more cohesive with a holistic system of MRV and climate accounting. And then next in line, more recently, just late last year, the EBRD, European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, and other stakeholders released a protocol for digitizing monitoring, reporting, and verification that not only improve cost, like reduce the cost, reduce the time involved in doing MRV, because we needed to always try to save wherever we can, but to also provide more value of the data, making it more real time so that it can be used in more timely decision making and accelerate the velocity of climate finance, because we have such a huge challenge to achieve the Paris Agreement targets over the next decade and subsequent decades. And then just earlier this year, the Task Force for Scaling Voluntary Carbon Markets likewise highlighted the value of not just digital MRV, but looking at the value chain, climate action value chain, sort of end to end. So there's the carbon markets, the climate finance, really putting all of that into a digital infrastructure to, again, accelerate and scale the activities more cost effectively. And so just a couple more slides here. You may have seen quite more frequently now, again, the rise of an age-old problem around greenwashing, in which a lot of claims don't have sufficient evidence behind them to back them up about the environmental integrity. That's in some cases an issue of bad data, garbage in is garbage out. So of course we need to be able to address any deficiencies around the data, not just accessibility, but quality, its cost, how that data can be used through marketplaces to grow more climate actions. But in addition to that old saying of garbage in is garbage out, is the challenge around the quality of the standards individually and as a system of standards. So it's quite conceivable that you have quality data coming in. So we have a good data infrastructure. But if we're using bad standards, which I mean they're not compatible standards, in some cases they use even different terminology, never mind different core elements of their methodologies, but putting good data in, and then everybody's using different methodologies that give different metrics that we can't aggregate up towards a whole for a city or for a country that has the data integrity and the environmental integrity behind it. And so addressing those rules, which really do come out to the number of tons or credits that climate actions are creating. And part of the challenge is there is thousands and thousands of these climate standards, and I won't go through all of these different ways that these standards are divergent or incompatible, but by seeing all of the different types, you can easily imagine how they do not all cohesively work together, so that when we track climate metrics and do MRV, that it all adds up to the national or subnational inventories. A good example to try to use the analogy of a company, but I think this is equally relevant for communities. So working on this slide, if you're able to see it from left to right, the Paris Agreement in establishing targets that are temperature like the 1.5 degrees Celsius, that equates to a global carbon budget. And then, you can see the IPCC involved and other international organizations and global initiatives each have a role to play in taking a global carbon budget down to a company or a community's carbon budget, and what kind of mix of technologies and strategies, investments, and so on are really the right mix to decarbonize, to meet the Paris Agreement targets with the cost effectiveness, the timeliness, the just transition, and so on. That system of methodologies isn't simply technical standards. It really reflects the values of the communities, and those need to be incorporated into this improved, compatible system of standards that's also been designed to be ready to be deployed using digital solutions. So not simply rules or methods that you might send out an accountant or an engineer and so on. So last slide is to really highlight the value of standards, which is admittedly not a very sexy or flashy type of issue, but in truth, they contribute a huge amount to the value of not just the economy, but avoiding trade wars where possible, which can lead to other conflicts. And they help make the economy more efficient on the order of about 1.5% of global GDP, which is about the same as, say, the aviation industry or shipping industry. So it's quite large. However, as I pointed out, the landscape of climate standards aren't compatible and working together. So we're a bit at a log jam holding us up. And it's not simply using those standards, it's how they're developed, how they're managed to be able to be deployed more rapidly in meeting our targets. It can't take 5 years to develop a standard when we've got 10 years to try and decarbonize by half. We have to really make it much faster. And so 10 times faster, 10 times less cost to develop standards, make those standards when they're digitally implemented, 10 times higher quality and how they've been applied and the benefits and results of applying them. And as I mentioned, there's going to be a huge effort to essentially convert old analog standards into digital standards. And this process to transform that governance setting process has to be really engaging and participatory for citizens. And to do so is going to require new incentive models that can be supported with some digital solutions so that the development of these methodologies and their application can happen at the speed that they need to happen. So that's an overview of some of the core areas that I'm been working on personally and as part of the Climate Change Coalition's D2I2 initiative, or Data and Digital Innovation Infrastructure. Thanks very much, Miroslav. I'll hand it back to you. I think it might be out of time.
Thank you very much, Tom, for this presentation. because it shows what is needed for this youth empowerment, youth climate action empowerment to function. It's not that somebody somewhere just develops an app or something. It needs a data and digital innovation ecosystem and a lot of smart standards and even ontologies, taxonomies. And there's really, for this interoperable global community to function in light of the climate crisis and to channeling financial resources and incentives to youth climate action and to empowering cities. This needs digital innovation, and your work in this field is very much appreciated. And it feeds also into the work of Alexei, who will speak next as the leader of the Digital Finance for Sustainability team of the Climate Change Coalition, because our aim is to empower youth, empower communities, meaning we want to channel financial resources to these impactful and meaningful climate actions. And we need systemic solutions, and the two of you are leaders in providing them. Thanks for your service for humanity. Alexei, please tell us a little bit about digital finance for climate action and how we will work on digital badges also and crypto stamps for carbon footprint compensation and this kind of things.
Okay, sure. Thanks, Miroslav. Hi, everyone. Happy to be here. So with some of you whom I already know, and some of you who I...
Thanks, Miroslav, for the opportunity to participate in today's event.
Sorry?
Okay, we have
another voice in the video. Oh, now it's better. Yeah, amazing. So, yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alexei. I'm CEO and founder of EverCity, a digital platform for impact measurement and investment. I've been involved into climate finance since 2011 when I started Russian Carbon Fund, and we did a lot of climate projects with multinational corporations. And in 2016, we started to look into technologies that can help us solve major problems of the climate finance markets. We were more active in carbon credits, and we found out that this is a very oligopolistic market, and project developers cannot sell their carbon credits to end users at a fair price. So they always sell to resellers, traders, special intermediaries that have trust and work directly with end users. And those project developers all around the globe, they have to, sell very cheap. So this doesn't make a lot of sense to us and to the market as a whole. I think this is one of the problems why the market is not booming as it should be. Well, this year and last year, it's way better with carbon credits. But the problem is the same with carbon credits and other instruments like green bonds. The problem of trust between the issuers of green finance and the buyers, and also the problem of greenwashing, the problem of impact transparency and traceability. When we buy carbon credit or green bond, we don't really know what is the real impact, and is it still being made, and are there any risks or problems with the project, and how the project really performs in terms of sustainable development goals. So we don't have access to the project site and to physical impact data. We only rely on paper reports or just self-declaration of the project or this self-declaration verified by the auditor. But also this is an additional proof, but it's not 100% proof that the project is really making the impact it should make. So digital technologies really help here. And what we did in 2017 is the world's first carbon credit transaction in blockchain that showed a lot of benefits that blockchain bring as an immutable database for any environmental asset that supports also various functions like issuance and retirement and transfer of green assets. And while doing that, blockchain allows to trace those instruments and the impact, and really helps you to understand what was the actual impact, is it still going on, and who was involved in the transaction and in the trade of these green assets. And also our first transaction showed not only transparency, but also reduced a lot of time and costs. It was an international transaction of voluntary carbon credits from Africa, and it was done in just minutes with very low transactional costs. And it showed that blockchain is a great technology, not only for finance, but essentially for green finance, that helps to solve these two issues, efficiency and transparency. And what we see now since these past years, because it was already 4 years ago, now we see a lot of more members in the Climate Change Coalition. We see a lot of new projects that implement these technologies. And the latest trend is that we're able to combine the blockchain part as an immutable data ledger with monitoring tools like satellites, like drones, and smart sensors. And once we combine the GIS layer and the monitoring layer with the blockchain layer that keeps the records, we have a unique opportunity not only to track green bonds or carbon credits or renewable energy credits or some other green assets and check whether they're really doing the impact. We have a unique opportunity to design from the very beginning new types of green assets that are fully programmable. So we can program in a bond literally any condition of the interest rate fluctuation, how the interest rate should be connected, for example, to the impact measurements of renewable energy output or some other impact metrics received from the projects using satellite sensors and drones. And then automatically adjust the interest rate and show how much interest should the project pay to investors, and show to each investor how much interest he will get, and many, many other things. So literally, blockchain combined with monitoring tools enables us to open a new era of programmable and fully traceable green assets, which is starting just now with experiments that we're doing together with Miroslav, together with other Climate Change Coalition members. So our first innovation here is a sustainability-linked bond with an interest rate that can be connected to real-life impact measurements. And we have tested this blockchain, open source blockchain protocol last year. It's open source, so literally anyone can use it to issue and monitor and track green bonds. And our joint aim for this year is to test this software with several banks and several issuers to provide more flexibility and to provide more opportunity for issuers and investors to play around with interest rate and how it should be connected with impact done by the project. There could be different approaches to investment in such vehicles, impact first or money first, and this will influence how the bond can be programmed. And also it opens a lot of hedging opportunities, so lowering the risks of non-delivery of impact in several ways. So it's just a new page, a new era of digital green instruments, and together we are starting this first page. So we need more partners to test this solution, to come up with their ideas with environmental data, by the way, because it's very important for investors to look at environmental risks before they step into this or that impact project. So the previous presentations were very important and really also bring a lot to this green finance equation and improves the whole, the whole market. So these are the things we're literally doing, and there are even more stuff to do, like those crypto stamps that are more on the youth engagement side, but it's a great way to reward people for their environmentally friendly behavior and stimulate, more of this behavior from youth and from other groups. And this is also possible with blockchain, much more convenient, much more transparent. And we are not thinking about, we're not talking about something that just drops industries, but rather we're talking about just new infrastructure for financial markets that we might need to use because green finance is becoming more important. We need more green finance. And this is exactly the infrastructure we need to solve the market problems and to bring this market to a whole new level and provide investment opportunities not only for big development finance institutions and nations and UN, but also bringing in private retail investors and other groups of investors that might be interested in financing climate change fight and also other SDGs. And this is exactly what we're doing together. So let's think of new ways for collaboration and raising the bar here. Miroslav, sorry, you're muted.
So thank you very much, Alexei. It's a very important work that you are doing on measuring impact and handling impact, organizing digital finance, because we really want to bring financial resources down to the youth climate action level, and there are small amounts, and if the transaction costs are big, like with traditional financial instruments, then it's not possible. But with digital finance, with digital bonds, we can also create resource mobilization mechanisms around the climate action challenges that will be identified by youth in the framework of our work. And also an activity and infrastructure that would deserve resource mobilization for is this satellite-based internet access that our friend Tihomir Divjak is working on in the context of the Go Foresight Institute from Ljubljana and with our friends in Chad. So Tihomir, please present us your work.
Thank you, Miro. It was really a pleasure to be with you this evening. This reminds me to the long time session in Klagenfurt when we start to dream about the ICT hub. That is still a wonderful idea of yours and mine, of course. Let me give the possibility to present our, I may say, smart initiative. We are witness of the unpredictable and turbulent climatic changes that will unfortunately be repeated. Having in mind the extremely difficult situation in sub-Saharan Africa, we have opted for assistance in the field of education and health care using satellite communication for this population. Chad, why Chad? It is one of the poorest countries in the world, was a special challenge for us. They have double disaster, climatic changes, and biggest refugee crisis. I don't like to mention the numbers, but it is terrific. And our idea is that the refugee camps as a place from which to restart, those citizens have to become oases of peace. Our vision and mission to achieve a decent life in the region has received support of several international conferences that you are aware for the realization of this Africa e-learning e-health satellite project. And the first pilot project dedicated firstly to sub-Saharan large countries with the most important problem, great number of out of school children or kids. Around the project, we have gathered an important expert international task force group, Lake Chad Regional Alliance. You are a member of it, of course, with 15 members, capable with technological nucleus consortium for its realization and implementation. Aware of the importance of the project, we have made prior contacts with Education Cannot Wait, UNHR, Lake Chad Basin Commission, and the Ministry of Education in Chad. Unfortunately, our mission has been slowed down due to the COVID pandemic, COVID lockdown, and recent political events in Chad. The only good thing is that COVID has been given to us in this turbulent situation is that intensive application of teleeducation as the technological innovation. So now we are in front of the very important question: what to do? We have to verify the efficiency of the idea at the most important stakeholders, which are well known. To turn from the bottom-up proposal into the general upside-down solution of the most important IGOs, stakeholders dealing with the problem of refugees and climatic changes. That should become part of their strategic policy and smart development concept. In the next period, we intend to direct our action to the realization of the pilot project towards the EU in accordance with the proclaimed EU-AU policy and help. As real help for the development of Africa in accordance with the proclaimed short-term and long-term strategic documents, it seems to me that after the professional checking, our initiative can be applied more efficiently in accordance from the most important AGO in this field. They need to be convinced in that. And to conclude, our philanthropic proposal and solution present a smart, efficient turnkey solution and is based on the state-of-the-art satellite technology. It should become a worldwide property and policy. It contains an efficient hardware technological segment based on half-container module with a solar panel supply as virtual schools, as well as educational teaching content. That is all in one project. The double benefit of this one-time experiment in Chad we expected, and to reduce education and non-enrolled kids in Chad. I have to remind you that 58% of the children in Chad are not enrolled in the schools, and approximately 2,400 kids in 46 camps in Chad are not in the schools also. So let's do our business. Let's produce with our vision. Thank you, Miro, for giving us the possibility to remind you. And this is also not only the tool to give them the appropriate education first and permanent education, but to inform them about this tremendous problem that we have with climatic changes, that they have, for example, to make the synergy with the Great Green Wall project in Africa. That is our main task. Thank you, Miro.
Thank you very much, Tihomir. I really believe that your initiative is a very important element for sustainable development on the African continent and also in other disadvantaged places, and that we really, if we want to build a global community of people concerned about climate and working on climate action, we need to provide access to the internet first. And then we need to focus on education and capacity building. And I'm convinced that around this kind of services, internet access provision, there can be developed new social entrepreneurship business models where global community provides some initial funding for the infrastructure, but then there are user payments models that would make the structure self-sustaining or even income generating for other sustainable development work. And I really very much believe in your project, and I hope we will be able to channel financial resources towards your work and then also to scaling it up so that there will be internet access and climate action empowerment in every city around the world. And with this, I have the pleasure to conclude this cities and communities and digital innovation session and move on now to our last session about mass mobilization for climate action with the power of music. And we have here wonderful panelists and friends joining us, Meg Okubo from the Music for SDGs initiative, Gloria Starkins, our member of the IAI GloCha advisory board, and a friend who brought us together with the Music for SDGs initiative, but also with the people in Chad, so that we've had already several initiatives and conferences about SDGs implementation in Chad. And then last but not least, our IAI president and friend, Michael Platzer, who will talk about the role also of and the important challenge of working with faith-based organizations in the context of the UN system to get these global goals implemented. And with this, I give the floor to Meg. Please, Meg, tell us about Music for SDGs and how you mobilize the masses.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd like to share my screen. So is it okay?
No, you have to press the share screen button.
Okay.
And then you have to go to choose the window. Yeah, I can see it now coming. And now you have to choose the application window. Yes, here we are.
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm very honored to have this opportunity to present the activity of the Music for SDGs. So the Music for SDGs project is a project to promote SDGs through entertainment and music. I'm project director, Mark Okubo. I'm relatively known as a policy advisor because I'm working in the largest insurance company in Japan, and they are working on the ESG investment and also sustainable finance, especially in APEC. But here I'm today to represent Music for SDGs and promoting the deepening understanding of SDGs in an easy and enjoyable way through music events. And we have a lot of partners, the Flower Harmony, Kippe-san, and Social Japan in Japan, and also the GloCha and IAAI as a global partner as part of Action Now. And we are extremely honored to have Ms. Gloria Starkins as ambassadors and working as a liaison with the United Nations community. So most recently, we organized the Earth Day Music Festival 2021 together with GloCha IAAI in conjunction with International Earth Day, together with a number of the collaboration partners which share the same passion and the commitment to keep this planet beautiful. And then I'd like to take this opportunity to share some of the digest video from the meeting. So this event started with We Are the World by the students and alumni from the Berkeley College of Music. Unlike the original We Are the World, it's with the many different instruments in different languages, and I believe that this is the true evidence that the music can bring the world into one, despite culture, philosophy, religions, and politics. Also, we work with the Kimono Global Club. So the promoting kimono as a sustainable fashion. Here is a hierarchy. The blind by birth, but he's looking up the sky as only one sky on this planet connecting all of us, and we have to protect this earth with or without disability. And also the Clermont Corps joined from South Africa. The award-winning corps is working and using music to enhance awareness among the general public in the region. Megan Picciano is the Broadway star currently starring the Christine Daae of the Phantom of the Opera. She's always supporting us on this beautiful project. Catches Performing Arts is the organization which uses the arts actually to promote peace and culture. And the musical in science is very promising because it doesn't matter what language you speak. Coming back to Megan, and I'm talking with her the possible production of a musical show on the topic of climate actions to educate people. Music for Climate Justice is working to have a very good music events in collaboration with Grammy Foundation and the business community back to COP26. And this is the final video for this digest by the Mother Earth Cup. So Mother Earth Cup is actually launching the award on the innovation to keep this Mother Earth beautiful. And the highest prize is called Gloria Prize. And it will be launched back to COP26. And I'd like to thank all of them who are involved in this beautiful Earth Day Music Festival. So let me share some of the other activities as well. We initially started by the Jazz Anime SDGs concert. So as you know, the anime is one of the most popular culture in Japan, and we are connecting anime with SDGs and using the music to promote SDGs. Also bringing the musicals into the domestic and international keynote speeches and university lectures. It's about how insurance company and institutional investors can contribute on SDGs, but bringing artists and we're using the live BGM and also this little concert, and then teaching about SDGs to the students. And we had a very, very good feedback from students, like most impressive lecture in lifetime kind of remark. So I was very, very happy. Also, because of the COVID-19, it's quite difficult to have a live concert nowadays, but we are using online platform to connect the artists from around the world and then having a festival. And for each artist have a specific message on a specific SDGs topic. For example, Megan Picciano from Broadway Star was sharing her perspective about empowered women in this event. And also we team up with other NGOs such as IAPSS and other United Nations Association and UN 2020 and others. And they are talking about the global homelessness, bringing the panel discussions and UN 75 resolution on all that, but we took care of the talent shows. And we are having the musical performance again later this month, and with the courtesy of our ambassador, Gloria. So in addition to the usual artists for us, the current and former ambassadors to the United Nations will join us as musicians, and we cannot wait for this the very event like that. So I'd like to invite the motivated students working in the Lottery Dare to Be Great e-club. So we collaborate with those, and I believe that their message is well inconsistent and a great synergy with what Miro said earlier today.
There's no audio, Mac. Mac, we cannot hear the audio of the video.
Okay, sorry. Oh, you cannot hear the audio of the video?
No, but also the time is quite ahead, so we have to conclude today's event slowly. So if you could conclude that we give the word to...
You cannot hear the...
No, I
don't know
cannot
why.
hear you. So please, let's conclude and go to Gloria.
Okay, I will share this video later with everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So let me conclude this. For example, our new focus is innovation. So to explore a new generation of entertainment. Also, to support sustainable music career, and also education. And we have to combine education and entertainment with a very innovative way, and also to connect hundreds of millions of people around the globe through music and new technologies. And as this group, actually promoting the music context, connecting hundreds of millions of people. So I think the initiative will be worth considering in this group. So if you have any questions or feedback, please send me the email to the musicforsdgs@gmail.com and maclub@gmail.com. So I strongly recommend to view this video creation by the students around the world, and I promise that I share that video with you later. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Meg. And this gives me now the pleasure to introduce Gloria, who the grande dame of the New York High Society and was a leader of the press corps at the United Nations and a friend and advisor. And I've had the honor to stay several times also at Gloria's place in New York when I visited the UN. So Gloria, what are your thoughts when you hear these presentations and also this music initiative, which is very dear to your heart, as you know, and you are also a dancing queen?
Can you hear me now, Miroslav?
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
All right. So I will introduce my young intern. She's from the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and her family are in the fashion business. She's from a very prominent family in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and a little bit different when you're haute société of the Congo. You don't have the debutante balls, and they don't focus on their thriving, brilliant future leaders of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. But I invited this young lady to be on with me. Her name is Mazarine, and she's De La Rodriguez. Mazarine doesn't speak English, so I'll speak a tiny bit of French, and she can speak a bit. Mais premier enlève les lunettes. I told her she's very beautiful and she should take off her eyeglasses. And she models this beautiful fashion, which is made in the Democratic Republic. Can you stand up? Vous pouvez enlever un peu, qu'on peut voir le robe. It's beautiful. Look at it, the colors, look at the fashion, and look the way it fits in the shoulders, around the sleeves, and around the waist. So you can see, you can have premier fashion in the Democratic Republic. Yeah? And I wanted you to realize the amount, because the gentlemen before were speaking about Africa, what you can do in Africa. The fashion industry producing clothes, having sewing machines in a country and mass production, and it's artistic, can feed a lot of people in that country. So I thought it was important because when you have a fashion show, actually we're not having one now, but when you do have a fashion show in Paris, New York, and London or Italy, they play music. The models walk to music. It's an art. Well, I wanted to call your attention to this area of endeavor, that language is important. And Mazarine is going to spend 3 years at least in New York to learn English and maybe go to a fashion institute at some point when she can communicate better. For me, music is very important. At the age of 17, I wore 2 hats. At the age of 17, I started as an intern, like Nazarene is with me, at the United Nations in Lake Success. And then at the age of 18, and that's some of our young people are that age, others are much older, but for the ones who are young, that's where it starts, at a young age, to wake up and to understand art, because they may become famous artists, at least support themselves with art and graphics today, to understand fashion, which has made a tremendous influence on the whole world. What is important when you go for an audition for work or school, that you look nice, that you, if you don't have a lot of clothes, whatever you have a simple, beautiful shirt. If you're a girl, a beautiful skirt. If you're a boy, a nice, lovely shirt and good-looking trousers, and that your manners are polite, and that you show when you go for an interview, even to school, to meet the school you'll be going to from the first day, to show you care and respect for the school. In families around the world today, many families in Africa, many families, for instance, in Ireland still, they have 6, 7, 8 children. Did you want to talk, Miroslav? Did you want to say something?
We will have to conclude because we're already over time. Sorry.
And one little thing, that when there are a lot of children in a family, the older children, where there's a lack of computer knowledge, the older ones can hook in their younger brothers and sisters to be able to share this knowledge worldwide, right there in the family. The mother, father may be working, but if there are a lot of kids, they can help each other. And that's also important. Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much, Gloria. And thank you very much for the mentorship that you're providing to Mazarine, but also many other people, and for the bridge building that you have done between nations, between the UN and the general public, and also the possibilities and the doors that you have opened for our organization is very, very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
And thank you for allowing me to participate.
And with this, we are coming to our highlight speaker, Michael Plaza, the IAI president.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but if you come closer to the microphone, it's good. So please tell us about your work on mass mobilization for climate action. I can hear you. Now I don't hear you anymore. Oh, you are muted. Wait a minute. I'm unmuting you now. No, you have to unmute yourself. Yes. Now it's good. Yeah. Please Tell us, my
hearing
hero.
me? Yes?
Yes. Yeah,
Yes, it's
please.
okay?
Yes, it's okay.
All right, I talk. I cannot hear you. Listen, I'm so glad to be here. I've enjoyed the journey with you for 10 years, and it's amazing what you've achieved, Miroslav. And I've enjoyed some of your speakers, particularly Tom and Alexei and Eunice. But let me put a little bit of cold water on this, okay? Because I've made some switch in my own life now, and I'm working for faith-based organizations rather than for the UN bureaucracy. You know what we are talking? We've basically been talking to ourselves, and I think what we need to talk about is the origins of most of this criminality. I would say it is that this climate change is our own mess. It's not the dinosaurs, it's not the elephants' fault, it's our fault. And it happens through dumping waste, it happens through pollution, it happens through that forest deforestation, extermination of species, corruption, selfishness is at the crucial point of this. It's us buying large cars, purchasing more and more, the throwaway culture, the type of living. And most importantly, it's also even the city planning is done by criminal enterprises. And if we don't realize what is happening and the way people vote and the corruption that is apparent in most countries, I'm going to say now even, we will never be able to change our good world. So I am going to make a last plea that we have to be very clear-headed, be in our mind that we are ourselves ourselves at fault. Most religions favor, respect the creation, nature, etc. Ethics is at the core of most religions, and I think that's where we need to go. I think this is also where we have found in the UN Commission on Crime Prevention and Criminal Justice that there is a close connection between what people believe, what their value system is, and what finally comes out. So I'd hate to see our world go the way of the dinosaurs. And I see we're not improving very quickly. And it's very, very easily to make great speeches in Scotland and in preparatory meetings, but actions count much worse. And the point is that we do not do what we are saying. We are simply going on polluting our world, and we are causing more and more climate change, which is all of our indicators have shown. So I appreciate all the good people who have worked on these projects. I can't say I salute them, but somebody has to point some fingers. And I'm so glad that the Pope Francis has finally used the word ecocide. These are crimes that have to go before criminal prosecution, an international criminal court. They have to be prosecuted nationally by aggressive prosecutors. However, UNEP estimates that 3 environmental defenders are killed every day. 3 people are killed just for defending the environment. And I think this is what's really at the core of the issue. We have to look at ourselves, and we have to mount the necessary legislation and prosecution of criminals so that we can change the world. So I'm very much on action-oriented at a legislative and at criminal measures. And with that, I close. I thank you for inviting me. I really have appreciated what you've done, Miroslav. You know I'm your best friend. I'm the MP2, he's the MP1, and we will continue the struggle together. But let's not forget there are also bad people out there. Okay? Bye.
Thank you very much, Michael. Yeah, as the whole event has said, that we are looking in a systemic approach on how can we improve global community, global society addressing the climate crisis. These aspects that you have highlighted, ethics and also connecting with faith-based organizations and these deep layers of our culture is very important, and then really transforming it into legal instruments that will prevent ecocide in the future. That's wonderful. And this brings us to the closing of our event, and happy to call back to the floor, to the screen, Doug Reagan, UN Habitat Youth Program Coordinator, who was one of our lead partners for today's event. And I hope there has been some valuable information for our audience. And Doug, please take you the last, the concluding words.
Thanks, Miro. I think there's been many words said that are better concluding than mine. But thanks so much to everyone. It's really been an amazing event. We're almost at, what time is it? About 9:30 here in Nairobi, but I think it's been well worth staying up and hearing from everyone. I think that as we started out in COP in 25, and now we've had this event and further events, I think that we can continue to make this movement, we call it, movement both of technology, but as well as young people, assuring again, as I keep repeating, that we leave no one behind. And as we move forward to take on climate change and the other ills in society. So again, thanks so much. Thanks for organizing this. Well, thank you to everyone who spoke. I think it was amazing. And yes,
thank you very much, Doug. And a brief outlook on what might also happen in the foreseeable future, as has been mentioned by Catherine Foster and also Tim Damon. We are looking with the Yango ACE working group and also with the World Environment Situation Room and UN Habitat Youth Team, perhaps to organize a digital art call for digital art for youth climate action empowerment, and then a fundraiser and auction. There will be probably some announcements around the World Environment Day on the 5th of June. And then perhaps if we are lucky and diligent enough, then we will have something already to start the auctioning on the 12th of August, the International Youth Day. And then some activities around COP25, 26 pre-COP youth event in Milano, end of September. And then of course, the highlight of this year in terms of climate action empowerment will be the COP26 conference in Glasgow. We will have hybrid activities, partially in person and partially virtual, and hope to connect with as many of you as possible and to have really impactful action happening and empowerment happening, so that we get from the talks to action and impact. And with this, I send you best regards from Klagenfurt again, and wishing you all the best.
Thanks. Ciao.
Ciao.